Hello. The audience in the lobby area, request you to come in and settle down, please. Good morning. Product Leaders Forum welcomes you, our dignitaries, our speakers, audience, and good morning to all of you. We will be starting a day-long event with lots of learning and lots of innovation and absorbing. We have the first speaker who will be inaugurating the event by lighting a lamp. I request Mr. Srinivas Rao, Ramesh Loganathan, Arun, and Ranjan Agarwal to come onto the stage and light the lamp, please. As the Chief Executive Officer of T-Hub, which enables and empowers an ecosystem hungry for innovation. An accomplished serial entrepreneur, MSR has built and scaled business across geographies over the last 33 years stint. I wouldn't call it stint, a long tenure in the IT industry. At T-Hub, MSR is committed to positioning the organization to become a stronger innovation ecosystem enabler with high-quality outcomes. To achieve these aims, he will be focused on fundraising initiatives, higher variation served as a CEO of a game, Global Alliance and Mass Entrepreneurship, a social impact entity, where he was responsible for the implementation of the organization's programs and expansion plans in its mission to catalyze 10 million mass entrepreneurs by 2030. His areas of focus included rigorous program evaluation, fundraising, communications, and actively engaging the key stakeholders in the innovation ecosystem. Earlier, he co-founded Outjars in 2008 with seed funding from IDG Ventures, with a vision to help organizations manage and enhance information value through value innovation and excellence. He drove the Outjars exit to NSEIT, a 100% wholly owned subsidiary of National Stock Exchange. MSR was a part of promoter team network solutions, NetSol, which he helped scale from an early stage entity to being among India's top 3 network integration entities before his acquisition by IBM in October 2008. At the start of his career, MSR also worked with Sonata, Computer Vision Labs, and Microland. MSR is a native of Telangana and currently lives in Hyderabad. He holds an MBA degree from the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, and a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from OU College. He's a bibliophile, a cricket fanatic, and enjoys quizzing. He has his wife and a special educator, and are proud parents of 2 daughters. We welcome you, MSR. We also welcome Ranjan Agarwal, Vice President, Research and Development for ADP India. Ranjan Agarwal is Vice President, Research and Development for ADP India and leads 3,000 associates in engineering and product management organization. Ranjan joined ADP in 2014 and brings 28 years of experience in building world-class global product engineering teams, delivering innovative, award-winning enterprise software products and solutions. He did his BTech in computer engineering from Delhi Institute of Technology and master's in computer science from University of New Hampshire, US. Before ADP, Ranjan worked with Microsoft and Redmond, WA campus for 16 years, where he helped ship multiple Microsoft Office products, including being part of the incubation team of Microsoft InfoPath and Microsoft InfoPath again, Forum Server, and headed the engineering of Duet and the release of the first version of Duet Server. He also holds 4 patents that were issued for his work. We request MSR to deliver his speech, please.
Good morning. How's the Josh today? Very low. Okay. So can I ask again, how's the Josh today? Okay, better. Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me here. Thank you, Arun. Thank you, Ramesh. And of course, thank you, Ranjan, for having me here. I keep telling people, getting a 9 a.m. start in Hyderabad is like the promise of AI. Okay, it sounds interesting. Looks like there are a lot of possibilities, but you're not sure what the end outcome will be, how many people will show up, right? And so far, nothing I've seen today kind of, leads me to believe that there's a variation on that thesis. So next time, maybe Arun and team, think about a 9 a.m. start, particularly on a nice Friday morning. Yeah. Okay. So I think I was just thinking about, as I was driving into this event, I was thinking about what's happening with AI. I don't know how many of you had a chance to read a memo which Sundar Pichai put out, I think, in a couple of days ago. Anyone has read that? Yeah, so please read it, right? It's a 2,500 word memo on the possibilities of AI. It's in the public domain. You can look it up, and it is surreal. I mean, if you look at how Google is thinking about what they're planning to do with AI, and I think it has profound implications. He also talks about responsible AI and a bunch of other things, but in some ways And again, connecting back to the theme of showing up at 9, I was talking to a bunch of folks, including Ranjan here, and I said only people of a certain generation will show up at 9 o'clock, right? So in some ways, I guess we are kind of a little bit privileged that we get to be at the, at this point in time, looking at what's happening in AI and how it's going to be game-changing, transformative, and so on, right? Sorry, someone is trying to call me, and I'll have to switch off the phone. Okay. So I think, obviously, AI is going to be a really fertile ground for innovation and experimentation. So if you look at one of the things I've seen, right, particularly in Hyderabad, and I have to give a lot of credit to Ramesh here for a number of initiatives which they have kicked off. So about a month ago or a couple of months ago? Huh? Yeah, a couple of months ago we had an event here. We had a Gen AI summit which was done along with NASSCOM on T-Hub. Ramesh is always known for his interesting choice of venues. So he did it in a pub called Monastery. So we had about 16 Gen AI startups. There was a nice dictionary of about, there's a nice compilation directory of about 40 plus AI startups. So clearly, I think there's a tremendous opportunity for Hyderabad to play a role as, enabling an AI ecosystem and to lead the way, sort of thing, right? So as I was driving up here, I was thinking about, how we've already seen, for example, I had to resist the temptation as I was coming in here to go to ChatGPT and say, okay, tell me about the role of AI in product management, because that would be outright plagiarism. So I said we shouldn't do that. So I think you can see already it is affecting the way you think, you talk, you read, you learn, and so on. So tremendous implications for people who are building products and consequently, obviously, product managers, right? I was looking at a report from Gartner, and Gartner, publishes all these nice reports. Some of them have to be taken with a large pinch of salt, sometimes with a large barrel of salt. But I think clearly Gen AI is something where, the time has come, and I think it will accelerate the innovation process, it will accelerate the quality of what is getting built, the diversity of ideas, and clearly create, many more robust and differentiated products, right? So there were some numbers I was looking at, another report from McKinsey, right? And I do know sometimes they get some of their predictions wrong, but they tend to be, more right than wrong. So they came up with a report where they said the potential of product and business opportunities with Gen AI is somewhere in the tune of between 2.6 million to 4.4 trillion in terms of this thing, right? And clearly this is an area where I think as we have a unique opportunity in India, okay, we have a large workforce, okay, we have high quality academic institutions, there's a lot of collaboration happening between industry, academia, right, and the startup ecosystem, right? So there's a tremendous opportunity to help businesses to innovate, to streamline, and then to launch new products, right? So if you look at funding, right, which is something which we track closely, in 2022, Gen AI generated about 2.1 billion of funding was raised in 1 year. And I don't think there's been any other stream of work over the last 40 plus years of venture investing where so much capital has been raised, focused on one theme. Part of my job, I have to travel quite a bit. And I was in the Valley, I've been to the Valley twice in the last 3 months. And every time we go and meet a VC and talk to them, the only thing they say is, if you're talking Gen AI, come and talk to us. Otherwise, go and meet someone else. Right? So clearly the opportunity, I think, is huge. And I think when you think about it in terms of what I think the impact is going to be, right? It's huge. I think it's going to impact everything which classic product management requires you to look at. I think AI will help you make more data-driven decisions, right? Obviously, because now you have access to large, to looking at large data sets crunching and finding patterns which otherwise would be hard to do. Obviously, there's a significant scope for personalization, okay, being able to deliver specific content, specific messaging, etc. And then obviously many other things around risk management, around automation, around NLP, and so on, right? So I think this is a great forum. I was looking at the list of people who are going to be here, and kudos to the organizers for putting together a high quality list of speakers. I'm sure the deliberations will lead to a lot of discussion, lots of new ideas will get generated, and hopefully this is another step in our collective endeavor here to make both Hyderabad, Telangana, and obviously India the place to be in. There's no reason why, everyone knows about the Sam Altman thing, right? You can't build something with 10 million. I think we'll prove him wrong, right? And hopefully whatever we are doing here today would be a good next step in that process. Okay, so thank you for having me here, and I do hope you'll have some really interesting, you'll get to hear to some really interesting folks. But more than that, I think the conversations you'll have during the breaks is what will really enrich a meeting of this type. Thank you.
We request Ranjan to come and deliver, please.
So hi, everyone. By the way, it's so awesome to see so many familiar faces here today. So that was wonderful. Thank you for having me here. So as we kick off this Product Leaders Forum, I'd like to share some thoughts on the exciting future of product management and transformative impact of Gen AI. Additionally, I'd like to highlight the growth of product management in India and discuss our vision for the future. So first and foremost, I'm very proud to represent ADP, a global leader in human capital management with revenues exceeding $18 billion and a client base exceeding 1 million. At ADP, we have leveraged decades of data and expertise to provide our clients with invaluable, actionable insights. We understand that in today's rapidly changing business landscape, data is the new currency, and insights are key to informed decision making. So as we look ahead, we recognize that Gen AI is not just the future, but it is central to our strategy at ADP. So we are dedicated to leveraging the power of Gen AI to engineer products that are not just great, but exceptional. And we have distilled our strategy into 3 simple but profound principles: make it easy, make it smart, and make it human. So first, make it easy. In an increasingly complex world, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So we recognize that our clients want solutions that are intuitive, user-friendly, accessible. And Gen AI allows us to reimagine user experiences. We've already actually released some versions of Gen AI integration which enables that, and makes complex processes feel effortless, and empowers our clients to focus on what matters most, which is their people and their business. Next, make it smart. It's about leveraging the vast reservoir of data at our disposal to provide actionable insights. So Gen AI enables us to analyze data at a scale and speed which was once unimaginable. We aim to offer our clients not just data, but the wisdom to make informed decisions that drive their success. In a data-driven world, being able to see the big picture and the tiny details is what's going to set us apart. And finally, make it human. In a world where technology threatens to dehumanize the interactions, ADP is committed to keep the human touch alive. Our products should enhance the human experience, not replace it. And Gen AI should help enable better human connections, support meaningful interactions, and foster a sense of community. So what does it mean for the future of product management in India? It means that we are at the forefront of transformative journey. Our country has evolved from being a service provider to a global hub of innovation. And MSR is a classic example. We are witnessing a surge in talent and capabilities, making India a force to be reckoned with in the tech world. As product management leaders, it's our responsibility to nurture talent, mentor the next generation, and continue to raise the bar for excellence in product development. It is forums like this one that play a pivotal role in bringing product people together. They provide a platform for collaboration, knowledge sharing, challenging conventions, and networking. As we move forward, let's consider how we can strengthen these communities, foster innovation, and collectively shape the future of product management. In conclusion, I do believe we stand at the threshold of an exciting era of product management driven by the power of Gen AI. ADP is committed to leading the way by making our products easy, insightful, and human-centric. Together, as a community of product management leaders, we have the opportunity to drive innovation, mentor future talent, and shape the future of our industry in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjan, for lovely words and enlightening us or awakening us, as I say. We request Arun to come onto the dais and give MSR a token of memento. A small token of appreciation, MSR. We request Arun to do the honors for Ranjan too. Yes, Ranjan and Abhilash and Arun, please. Thank you. Our next piece of item, moving on, we have Abhilash who will do the opening notes. Abhilash is a seasoned product management professional with over 18 plus years of experience, worked in startup to MNCs over these years. He's a patent holder and passionate about solving people's problems and creating great product and product communities for people. Abhilash, we welcome you.
Thank you, Shriyada. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Still no energy? No Josh? Happy to be here? Yes. Thank you. That's the Josh. Good morning. Thanks for making your time. On a Friday morning, being on time is challenge. MSR was mentioning who will come early on a Friday and that too in Hyderabad. Thanks for proving a little bit wrong on that. Firstly, my name is Abhilash, Abhilash Salwaji. I'm one of the product management professional with ADP. I'm also the co-chair of this event. We gathered here today for discussing, there's a lot of talk about AI and we wanted to talk about how AI impacts the product management professionals. So that's what this conference, why we started off here. I will brief about what is this Product Leaders Forum. Product Leaders Forum is a non-profit, volunteer-driven organization where we have thought leaders coming together from different areas, whether you are a developer or a product professional or an architect or any streams of your careers. We come together and become the melting pot of ideas. So we bring up something out of it, get together and grow as a group and as a community. So we become global leaders for global companies. Now it's our responsibility here, while we have ecosystem like ADP and T-Hub and our ministers who are supporting us in every way to get as many opportunities as they can for us, and it's equally our responsibility to make sure that we up our skills, up our levels, so we deliver greater products, greater value to the world, right? So Product Leaders Forum, the sole purpose is to cultivate this environment and where product professionals come together and grow together, right? And especially today, what we gathered here is we're seeing AI is taking over, right? AI is everywhere, in our pockets, in our laptops, and everywhere. And while everything around is growing, and it's our dire need, and it's our responsibility also to see that we also grow it and see how we apply AI, not just in our lives, but also in our products that we build and the services that we provide, right? So today, in this event, we are going to discuss a lot more about how are these trends shaping the industry. We have a lot of guests distinguished guests from MNCs and greater companies that are actually taking a greater initiative in this and proving them how to apply AI. So we are going to hear from them and learn from them. On the course of this conference, the speakers are going, and the panel will engage. So please feel free to ask your questions, challenge them, so you get better to take away from this conference, right? And I would like to thank Ranjan and our partners, MSR, and Ramesh Loganathan sir for giving us IIIT. It's a greater collaboration for Product Leaders Forum and IIIT to engage, so where the academia is coming together. So there's a lot of research happening here, and it's an opportunity for all of us how we can use this research and apply. So it's a kind of a win-win for us to getting the research and also the application coming together and make greater things forward. Thank you so much for giving us this venue and partnering and motivating us. Thank you so much. With this, I would like to say let's embark on this journey, have a wonderful session today, have more and more networking. We are going to have some startups who are applying AI. So we are going to stay there and see how they are trying to see and how they are trying to solve the challenges. Keep it open, enjoy the most, have fun. Thank you so much.
We request both of you to sit in the audience, please. We have Ramesh Loganathan, who will be giving the keynote address. It's truly an honor to have you with us, Ramesh. Ramesh, I know you personally as well. It's been lovely knowing you for the last few years that I've known you. Ramesh Loganathan is a professor, a renowned personality in the world of technology and innovation. Professor Loganathan, as I should be introducing him as, currently holds the prestigious position of Head Research Outreach at IIIT, where he plays a pivotal role in steering all innovation initiatives. With a remarkable career spanning 25 plus years, Professor Loganathan has contributed significantly to the tech industry. He has held leadership roles in research and development, both in US and India, showcasing his deep expertise and passion for cutting-edge technology. Today, he is here to share his invaluable insights on building products for the future. Please join me in welcoming Ramesh Loganathan.
Thank you. So nice to see a room full of product managers. I count at least about 70, 80. Nice to see, and that too on a morning, 9 o'clock, which means you must have left home at 8:30 at least. And so thank you. It's nice to, I've always had huge regard for HPL, I mean the Product Leaders Forum, right? Starting with the Institute for Product Leadership and the forum, kind of two concurrent efforts. And I always used to tell them, like, you need to do more in Hyderabad. And so thank you. I know one event was done some years back, and then the pandemic happened, so everybody, like, I think our just worlds were turned upside down. And so good to see it revived. And I've been nudging Vilash and others saying like, let's do more tangible events. Like we'll do the conferences, which we should do anyway, once in 6 months of order frequency, but let's do more of the monthly events and where there's more tangible takeaways that can happen. So we will do. So I think the idea was to have this kick it off, right? So talking about, I mean, product for the future is a very, right? I mean, always we hope we build, innovation is radical, right? Innovation is disruptive. Innovation kind of shakes things up. It doesn't always happen, right? If you look at most successful companies, like look at ADP, probably one of the most successful companies, but innovation is subtle. Right? It doesn't come and suddenly, ADP will not come and say like, okay, we'll stop doing what we're doing and do something else. Right? It is like, it is very subtle. So innovation is everywhere. It's like, yes, a startup can come with a new product because they are starting from scratch and they can. And larger organizations also need to innovate and do innovate to stay in business. We know what happened to Blockbuster. So they didn't, the writing was on the wall. It's a classic case study. Right? In the US, if you know the Blockbuster video, they were everywhere. Like a McDonald's, if you drive through US countryside, if you can see a McDonald's, you'll see a Blockbuster, almost. Right? There's hardly any town anywhere in US that did not have a Blockbuster video store for ages. Right? They've been there in that scale for ages, and they just didn't see the writing on the wall. And in just few short years, they had to shut down. Now, and few disruptions happened, right? If you look at the disruptions that happened that affected Blockbuster, and it was not all hard for them. Right? Had they seen the writing on the wall, given their momentum and their IP and everything, it was not hard for them to pivot. They could have easily pivoted. They just didn't see the writing on the wall. They just said, look, somebody coming and setting up like a small, there was something called the Red Box, if I remember right. The name was called Red Box. You could just, when DVDs were coming up, right? Blockbuster, you could get DVDs also, but here you could go new, they only had new releases. It's like a Coke vending machine. They used to have it in the supermarkets in the mid-90s or late 90s. And that was the start of the downfall of Blockbuster. They didn't see that. I mean, this was just a vending machine. They'll only have 30. If you go to a Blockbuster store, they'll probably have like, I don't know, several thousand or few tens of thousands of videos and DVDs that they would have. The collections were huge. But this one had only 30 most recent or most popular movies, which is what trends most anyway. And you just go put your card and kind of pick your selection, and that CD comes out, you take it. When you come back, you just drop it off. There's a place to drop it off. Now, they were the first disruption. And then Netflix came. Netflix started shipping it home. Netflix said, like, why go to both were successful. I think the Red Box probably shut down. I don't know what happened to that afterwards. I left US. I didn't track it. Of course, Netflix has become very big. And Netflix also pivoted. Right? They started with shipping CDs home. Their innovation was to just ship CDs home. It's saying, like, you're going to watch new movies, and they had not a very large collection, and the collection that will move fast, and you get 2 or 3 movies at home at any given time. And there were such book clubs and CD clubs for a long time, but somehow nobody did the movies. Netflix came and did the movies. And then they pivoted again. When they were shipping CDs home, around the time US Telecom was going through a massive rejig, right? They had this, like, they used to call it like 3-in-1, 4-in-1, all kinds of fancy terms. Basically, like, the pipe coming in carries everything. From your internet to your telephone line to cable TV, satellite TV, everything was coming in. So since the wire was bringing internet and satellite TV together, Netflix said, why not, right, on the same wire deliver movies? And they pivoted. I mean, they were reasonably large already, and they pivoted. And they don't very quickly, they stopped sending any CDs home. And they still continue to pivot, right? A large company, because they're large, doesn't mean they were one of the largest. Amazon, I remember in the early, when AWS was launched, Netflix was one of the largest customers, because all the streaming was happening on Amazon AWS servers. And so I think innovation, it's more about looking for right opportunities. There's technology on one side, and there's applied technology, right? Innovation on the other side, right? The whole creative. I feel as a country, as an industry, we kind of lack on the creative side of it. Technology, we are good, right? I mean, we keep up the latest, greatest frameworks, greatest tools and technologies and APIs and libraries and everything. We can pick up very quickly and build, right? As an industry, we can build very well. We can build anything. I mean, today, if somebody were to come and ask any of our companies to say, like, can you build a Netflix grade streaming server? I'm sure we can build, right? It may take 1 year, 2 year, whatever it takes, and like we have the engineering prowess we have. But building products engineering is only a starting point. I always ask this question, if Indians in Bay Area can build technology for the world, why can't Indians in India? The backgrounds are no different. Like Ranjan lived in the US for a long time and came back, right? And many of us have lived and come back, right? And the profile is similar. It's just the environment, right? The environment, we don't think, so we're removed from the customer. Like companies like ADP at least is still in touch with customers. Most companies in India would probably never ever understand what a customer is doing. You would get requirements, you don't know who the customer is sometimes, or maybe you know, but you got the requirements and you start to build, right? You're never generating requirements. And that's a big part of product management, big part of creative thinking. If you want good products, great products, we have to first define great products. It starts with understanding what the customers are doing today, what they need, where the gaps are, right? And coming up with some, and that's a very creative process. I always say there are two types of product managers, right? I don't want to slot any of you in either of those two types. Both are good. As an industry, we need both, but there are two types of product managers, right? One that are, I call them, again, pardon me for saying this to a room full of product managers, but I call them glorified clerks, right? They're bookkeepers. If you look at like the inputs keep coming in from field, from support, engineering also gives a lot of inputs. I remember when I was in the Bay Area, product management was so weak. They could not say no. I mean, like if a senior director or senior architect, especially architects, like technology companies, architects have a huge say in very strong tech companies. If an architect comes in and says, look, this is the latest communication, actually was there, one such initiative. This is the latest communication framework we have to adopt. Now, absolutely no business case. Business value was zero. The communication framework we had was good enough for servicing everything Inform is needed as a database server. And they still said, like, we have to build this, and the product management organization could not say no. 1.5 years, like almost 25% of engineering time was used to build it for zero market value. No wonder Inform is shut down in a few years. Right? I mean, you can't spend that kind of resources on things that don't have market value. So the understanding, but then we need that also. We need to keep track of all things coming in. There's some minimal value addition that happens in terms of prioritizing and such. But the bigger part is like the creative process. That's why great products happen. Right? If Apple came and said, let's build another mobile phone, they would have been just that, right? Another mobile phone. But that's not what they came and said. So they said, like, let's disrupt. Let's completely reimagine mobile phones. And of course, not that everything Apple has done has become successful. There are many things Apple tried that failed also. But look at the successful products, it's a super creative process. They said, like, it's not just technology. Technology was a very important part of it, but technology was only a necessary condition. The sufficiency was something completely different. Right? The sufficiency was to completely disrupt the thinking. Like, I mean, you hear this often said in the Apple context, but it's true in most contexts. Some things you can't get from your customer. If you ask the customer, tell me what the next new big phone could have been, I don't think anybody would have described Apple phone. Right? They may at most talk about some pains that they're having today. Or they may talk about some things that will be nice. It'd be nice if I can do this also. Like, it would be nice if I can take pictures in the night. It could be nice if I can, some small incremental things might come. But nobody's going to come and say, like, can you think of a phone with a single button? Right? Can you think of a phone with no manual? Can you think of a phone that just feels so different and fresh to the hand? Like, I mean, every aspect, they said, like, let's make it a piece of art, right? And like that, and that wow factor, there are very few phones in the market that came before or after that just wowed the audience, wowed the customers, right? Like Apple iPhone did. Like iPod did some of it, but iPhone just blew like in the US, I remember, by then I'd moved here, but I used to travel a lot. I mean, like, I used to travel at least once every 6 to 8 weeks. And I would see few iPhones. The next travel, I will see more. In no time, in less than 2-3 years, 9 out of 10 phones are iPhones. That's how much of the market they captured. Like, I mean, it went crazy. And that's because everybody was so impressed, right? The wow factor, that's what makes delightful products. The wow factor was so strong, everybody, you want to tell somebody, you know what? iPhone, did you get it? I got one. Like, I mean, that whole thing, it impressed the customers so much that they became the most vocal champions. I don't think Apple even needed to advertise. And they made sure it's not just the technology. Technology is only one small part of it. Very important part, yes. But not that other leading players had any less technology in their phones. Right? So technology was not the differentiator. How they packaged it, right? How they conceptualized what the phone should be, how the phone should be. Thinking of a phone with one button, thinking of a phone with one button would mean, like all of you know, you all understand UI, right? Thinking of a phone with one button could have been a UI disaster. Right? People have said, like, I just want to make a call. I don't know where to press. How do I make the call? You could have just taken the user into a jungle and then just let the user loose, not being able to figure out where to go next and what to do. But that's not what happened. They designed it so well, you don't need to know anything. You just go, it's very intuitive. How do you make a phone intuitive with a single button? And not have too many buttons. See, they didn't even trick the system. See, today, if you look at most phones, there are 3 buttons, 5 buttons on the screen always. Right? Though they say like it's one button, but Apple didn't even have that. Almost never even had a back button. Today they have, but early days, with that single button, it was intuitive. Right? You could figure out that you can always go back to the home screen. I remember my nephew when he is now 11, when he was just about maybe 12 to 15 months old. He figured out Apple phone. I was amazed on, like I said, I used to travel a lot. So I used to go there to visit him when he was growing up. And he would play a video when he was not even max 15 months, right? He could play the cartoon video he wanted. I was shocked. I just said, like, I want to see it. So I just took the phone, put some random thing, gave it to him. He was sitting on his high chair. He figured out that, like, he keeps pressing that single button, it goes back to the home screen. And he keeps doing it until it goes to the home screen. It doesn't matter where what you're doing, and it will take you to the home screen. The moment he goes to the home screen, he recognizes the YouTube icon. The moment he goes to YouTube icon, he knows that, like, if he scrolls once or twice, he will see the cartoon icon that he wants. Using 3 images, the home screen, YouTube icon, and the cartoon he wants. Every single time, I moved the cartoon around. I moved that icon around, and I gave it back to him. He could figure it out. Because he knew that, like, if it's not there, he does this, it goes up, he sees some more pictures. And he needs to do it until he finds a picture. And that's how intuitive. If a 13, 14-month-old can play the video he wants, you can imagine. I mean, it is remarkable. Of course, no, everybody follows their paradigm. But coming up with it when phones had big keyboards, like, you remember Nokia came around that time? The Nokia brick. You slide it up like it is 4 mobile phones in one. Right? And very kludgy. Of course, it caught everybody's attention because, like, now when you walk around, one of the most expensive phones in the market. But imagine Nokia brick came around the same time as Apple phone came. Just look at the difference. No wonder Nokia doesn't exist anymore. They just lost it. The company, can you believe, 100-year-old company that has over the years innovated, kind of reimagined, pivoted, just lost it somehow. Right? I don't know how it happened. That country is still a very, very creative country. It's one of the most creative countries in the world today, right? In terms of innovative thinking and creative. But somewhere it got lost, right? But so it is just, and their whole thinking of a product was that, like I said, technology is necessary, but only a small part. It's not the sufficient condition for successful products. Technology is only a starting point. Now, from the single button, right? The few mandates. It should look good, So the way they packaged it, they said they were the first ones to come with a small, tiny box. Right? Mobile phones used to come in big boxes with some of them used to have manuals. They definitely have small instruction books. They definitely have fold-out instructions. Right? This comes with nothing, almost nothing. Right? And with a pin, it comes just to put the SIM. And, like, almost no instruction. They were so confident. It doesn't matter who it is. They can use the phone. Right? When you start the phone the first time, it asks for a few things. And once you do that, that's it. It is set up. Now, today everybody follows the model. So they said, like, and the unboxing, the box packaging, the attention to detail that Apple had, right? The box was, like, from the color to the shape to the texture to the edges, how it feels in your hand. It was not like any other box. Right? Anybody could have done it. They didn't invent any of that paper or cardboard or, right, anything. They didn't invent it. It's all existing. It's just designing it, right, putting it in that shape, in that size, when you open it, the way it looks, the way the phone's laid out. So the whole unboxing was like, it starts from there. You're wow, every step you're wowed, right? It's not just that once you access, the single button intuitiveness, you're not going to be wowed when you play with it. You'll only be wowed like several days later saying, like, God, with single button I could manage to do all this. You can't, that's not something you can communicate, that you'll experience, right? You'll experience the lack of it. With single button, things didn't work. The second minute you would have said, like, this is crazy. But when it's working, it'll take a long time to figure out that, like, with single button I can do everything that needed, like, some 8 buttons in my previous phone. It takes some time to realize that, like, I could do so much with just a single button. But the whole thing, the wow factor started from the box, unboxing, the phone, the way the phone looked, the way the phone felt, right? You turn it on, the UI, the icons, they came up with the tray of icons. I'm sure they didn't invent it. I'm sure somebody else must have had it by then. But they were the ones that first made it so neat. They said, since it's a single button phone, there had to be pre-packaged apps. Things that you may normally want to do should all be there out of the box, right? Well, they went and pushed the store a lot later, but they didn't start with the store. When you open the box, most essential utilities are already there. It's not just a phone. Now, so much goes into it. If you look at some of the products, we try to create products here, right? I mean, IIIT is an institute, research institute. Not many know that we are a research institute. How many of you knew that we are a research institute? Okay, thank you. At least like a third of the room knows that we are a research institute. Most people think we are an engineering college. We are not like an IIT, right? We are more like a CCMB. Right? Little bit like IISc. IISc is a research institute, right? But we are a research institute that offers undergraduate program, right? Most organizations, research happens only through their PhD program. For us, for every paper that gets published through a PhD work in our campus, at least 6 gets published through undergrad work. Non-PhD, not undergrad, undergrad or postgrad, like work. So we have a very unique undergraduate research program. So we have a dual degree program, which is a BTech and MS by research. It's a thesis program. They have to get 2 publications to graduate. And then we also have the honors program in undergrad. Anyway, so we're a research institute. So we're organized as research centers. We don't have departments. Right? We only have research centers. So we're organized as research centers. The faculty can be part of multiple centers. It depends on what the current research interests are. So we have research centers. We have research-led pedagogy. And we have research. One of our objectives is research that matters. Right? We'd like research to mean something. To the society, broader society. So we don't want to just publish papers. Well, that's very important. Without the research at the core, there's nothing to build. But we also want to build solutions. That's been an objective from the beginning. Professor Raj Reddy, who was brought in from CMU to structure the institute, was the chairman till last week. Now we have a new chairman, Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala from IIT Madras, the new chairman. But Professor Raj Reddy was the chairman for the first 25 years. And a lot of his thinking, they started Robotics Institute, he started Robotics Institute in CMU in the mid-70s. Which was the first formal AI research group in the world. And like, so he has 60 years. By the time they brought him here, he was already 45 years in research, like in CMU at that time. And so a lot of that thing went in experiences. So there's no departments. Everywhere its departments become silos. In India it becomes even bigger silos. So no departments, we'll have research centers. And like, so faculty can be part of multiple centers. And so we manage research areas. And research should mean something to society was something that Professor Raj Reddy pushes a lot, even till date. We have a center we started in his name a few years back in the pandemic, where we work with NGOs to create emerging technology, AI and other technology-based solutions for NGOs. Because who's going to go build them a fancy AI solution or a camera vision solution or an LLM-based solution? Nobody's going to do it for NGOs. And we said we will build such solutions directly from kind of the front lines of research, solving problems they have in the field. Right? We work with NGOs, identify pressing problems which technology could address. We build it. It's an engineering group on campus from latest in research. Now, these are things that he used to push a lot. So we started our incubator in 2008, thinking you start an incubator and like professors and students will just line up to take the research work forward. In the first 10 years, we have had less than 5 startups come out of research, maybe 3. I'm giving benefit of doubt, assuming I forgot something, which I probably did not. Max 5. While we had about, like in the first 10 years, nearly 200, 250 startups come out of the incubator. Our incubator startups from outside can also come and work. It's not necessarily our own students and alum. And today we have had about 500 startups. We just celebrated 15th anniversary last week, 2 weeks back. And so we've had about 500 startups, and still not many from research. But so we've done many things. So if you just fast forward today, we have a product lab where we started that in, the idea was there for several years before, but finally we could do it in 18. It's an engineering group, we had to fund it. So it was funded by the institute, and with a product manager, the first person we hired was an MBA from Babson. Well, like all of you would know, many of you might know, Babson is one of the best places for entrepreneurship. So somebody who was working here in Qualcomm went to the US for MBA and decided to come back immediately. That's the first person we hired. We said, this group has to have a product manager. If you're trying to build products from research, without a product manager, you can't build. It's not just about, the second thing we said was, this group should not have researchers. If you have researchers, that group will do more research. Will want to publish papers. We said that group should not have researchers, should have only engineers. We'll work with research groups if you need research inputs or anything from research, but this group should not hire researchers. So strictly no PhDs in this group, right? Consciously. And so it's an interesting experiment. We've had very small team. The team was at no point more than 6 or 7 people in size. We've built about 10 products. Prakash, we got somebody who was in the industry running research in Honeywell for a long time. When he left Honeywell, the group he had started had about 150 PhDs. That was working in Honeywell Bangalore in that group, and then worked for a startup. So we found a person, very good profile, worked a lot with research institutions, and then he's the technology transfer officer and he runs the product labs. So now if you look at our experience in product lab, we got a product manager, we have a UI designer, we have advisors that we get, mentors from the industry who come spend few hours a week, few hours a month. Because we are building a product, you don't need to talk to somebody every day, right? Even if they come and spend 1-2 hours every 2 weeks, it's good enough to give good direction in terms of the product. And we've done about 10 products, and not all are successful. But these are all, we said this group will only work on products centrally based on research. Some seminal work or research work published, and that should be at the core. If you look at, going back to my earlier point, if Bay Area can make products for the world, why can't India? One of the key reasons is our connect with academia is very weak. The industry and research don't forget talking to each other. They're just miles apart. You can't even by mistake, you can't touch the other. It is like you have to make serious effort, either the research to come into industry or industry to come into research. They're completely immiscible worlds today. So we said we need to create this, since it won't happen organically, let's do this inorganically. Let's create this, right? Put in cart before the horse. And it's very tough, very tough. I mean, if you take the multiple problems, I mean, if anybody's interested, I can share. I wrote a paper based on our experiences. I wrote that in 18, based on Triple IT's experiences. I'm very involved in Triple IT for many years, though I moved full-time in 16, but I've been involved since 2002, and with startups and with products. So so it starts with, one of the products we took. It got this professor, who's also a current dean of research, in the computer vision space. They have two of their most, one is called CVPR and the other is called ICCV or something. 2 conferences where, as a computer vision researcher, if you get a paper there, even a couple of times in your career, you're considered very good. Jawar has a paper there every second year, right? And it's phenomenally well known internationally, definitely nationally. And so his work on badminton, they went and took broadcast badminton. A lot of broadcast videos available on the internet. So they took broadcast video and built this model to recognize, after the game, it will give a kind of the analysis that maybe a coach would give the player. If the coach had observed the game for an hour, right? At the end of it, if the coach were to go and talk to the player, saying you know what, your footwork was very weak today, you were on the lines, you were kind of bad, you missed a lot of points on the net. They would say things like this, right? Your backstroke was weak, your front stroke was good, whatever, things like that. The system will generate that kind of insights, which is fantastic work. So that's the first product we took. We said, let's build it. Now, what we realized through that and few others we did at the same time, right? Research, the objective of research is knowledge creation, right? While they have a broad idea, they don't go randomly and do anything. Most professors have an idea, but imagine they went in this particular area, right? Badminton. If you hit an issue with not finding the right videos, you can reframe the problem. I can reframe the problem because knowledge creation, even if I reframe the problem, I'm still going to create knowledge. I'm still going to get my papers and publications and conferences and such. Now, real world you can't. So we took this and we said, we'll work with academics. And we said, we'll work with one camera. You can't go have broadcast cameras in multiple 8 cameras, so we can't assume that. We said it should be one camera. Right there it came undone. The moment we said one camera, there were all kinds of assumptions built into the work that was done until then, because it was broadcast. Something as simple as a camera angle change, side change is seen as a point. Because it happens. Broadcast, they don't randomly keep changing cameras. They'll show from one side, and then when the point change happens, they'll show from the other side. and that's how all broadcast works in court games like badminton. They'd use that to recognize that a point was won. Now, we can't, in single camera, you don't have that. Now, so just taking your real world you can't reframe the real world. If I'm building badminton, such a solution for the academies, I can't reframe how academies work. I can't go and tell Gopinath Academy saying like, look, you know what, we have this problem, you have to have the players play this way, not this way. You can't. I mean, they do what they do. Technology has to fit in. Now, so to understand the real world is a creative process again. It's not always like saying like somebody comes and says, this is my requirement, build it for me. We have another technology which is kind of getting a lot of interest, but they're struggling to find the right sweet spot, right? Both products came around the same time. We started working in 18, 19, and then they incorporated in 20. So both the startups are around 3 years old. The other one comes from the document AI. We're a very strong language technology group. So language technology, computer vision, and robotics. 3 areas we're very, very strong, among the best in the country, and robotics also among the best in Asia for research output. Now, language technology, today there's so much of noise on ChatGPT and such. The LLM work has been happening here for the last 6, 7 years. So from out of one professor's work, this solution came out, which is like you can ask a question, and it will find information from large documents, right? You have any number of documents, it will find information from large documents. Now, this is like they say in the product world, like they say in the product world, you have a hammer and you have to find the nail to bang. Now, this is a hammer, it's a tool, right? A hammer doesn't do anything. Unless I find the right nail, I can't just go keep banging everything. I have to find the right nail, right? They say like the silver nail or the golden nail. You have to find the right nail to bang. So this is a tool now. Now, they are trying to find. Now, building the tool is pure technology work. Look, a little bit more than technology. You still package it. There's engineering involved, there's packaging involved, there's usage. There's some of that involved. It's a little bit of engineering, more than engineering. There's technology, there's some engineering, and there's some product packaging. Now, identifying what this can solve, right? A question answering system, what real world problem it can solve. There are very, very wide possibilities. It can become a virtual tutor, like in the education world. It can become State Bank is the first customer. They're using it for their SOPs, right? The 250,000 employees, they have a SOP, they have like some 20,000 one-page FAQs today, and they do that because they can't find information from their 300 SOPs, very large documents. So now they're putting this QA system there, so they can ask any question on policy, process, and such. It will find the information from those documents. Now, it could be for SOPs, it could be for customer support. Now, they tried customer support. The problem with customer support was, if I just find the information from an existing knowledge base, that's not answering the question. It has information to answer the question, right? To answer the question, you need to go into generative AI. The moment you go into generative, which they can do very easily, because if they can find 3 pieces of information that is relevant, they can quickly kind of massage it and create a nice paragraph out of it. When they do that, like which is the problem with Gen AI, right, today, ChatGPT, you get incorrect information, you get new information. And customer support, you can't give new information. You can't go and tell like my thing said like there is some 4 balls here as switches, you roll the 4 balls and the mic will come on. Well, there's actually a simple red button here. Now that's the kind of, it generates information which is not kind of real. Now, they're figuring out, they're in the market very actively for the last 1.5 years. They're getting some customers, they're still trying to figure out, now that's a creative thinking process you have to observe, right? Sometimes you get lucky where some customer will come and tell you like, do this for me. Right, State Bank came and told, do this for me. So they got excited. State Bank asked, so every bank should want. They've talked to every single bank. Often they say, no, our SOPs are not that big. State Bank is large. Our SOPs are much smaller. Or they say like, yeah, it is there, but not such a bad problem. We won't pay for it, at least, right? Now, so when somebody comes and asks, that may not be, so it's a creative process where you have to observe and connect. So that is the creating technology products for the future, right? Technology is only a starting point. The observations and connecting the dots is a much, much larger problem. If we don't do that, we can't create products for the future. Thank you.
We request Raj to give Ramesh a token of appreciation, please. Thank you, Ramesh. Thanks for your time and thanks for a lovely, I wouldn't say speech, I would say besides me introducing him and talking about his tenure. I would also like to add, Ramesh, you're a wonderful storyteller. The story that you told about your nephew and Apple is really, really wonderful. We move on to our panel discussions. We have our first panel discussion. The topic for the panel discussion is artificial intelligence for the real world. I request the panelists, Krishna Chaitanya, Dr. Venugopal, Somasundar, and Amit Sharma to come onto the stage, please. Can we have more chairs, please? I think we need 2 more chairs. Krishna Chaitanya Puttugunta is a prominent figure in the world of. Request you to settle down, please. And I also have a housekeeping announcement. Please put your mobiles on silent mode. It's disturbing the speaker. We have an announcement to make. We have a white Ford parked at the wrong place, TS07EN7105. I repeat, TS07EN7105. Please remove the car and park it at the right spot. Please, I repeat, a housekeeping announcement. Please put your mobiles on silent mode. Krishna Chaitanya Puttugunta is a prominent figure in the world of AI-based operation management solutions for fashion and lifestyle brands. As a co-founder of Zaperio AI, he has played a pivotal role in revolutionizing the fashion industry by introducing cutting-edge technology into the creative process. With over a decade of industry experience, Krishna has been at the forefront of developing innovative solutions that empower designers and brands to harness the power of generative AI. Through Zaperio AI's platform, he has enabled designers to seamlessly create custom products and models, ushering in a new era of creative and efficiency in the fashion and lifestyle sectors. Krishna's passion for technology and his commitment to driving change within the industry make him a true visionary in the field of AI-powered fashion management solutions. We welcome you, Krishna Chaitanya. Dr. Venugopal, our second panelist, is DGM AI/ML and working with ZF Group. Dr. Venugopal is a seasoned advanced analytics evangelist with over 18 years of experience in various industries. He's a data scientist, economist, and techno-functional consultant, known for covering business problems into analytic solutions. He specializes in manufacturing and market intelligence. Enabling organizations to excel with analytics. Driven by his passion, he's established centers for excellence in disruptive technologies like AI and ML and blockchain. His expertise includes generalized linear modeling, time series modeling, and deep learning. And he's a proficient in various data science and engineering tools, including SAS, Python, big data tools like Hadoop and Hive. Currently, he serves as DGM AI/ML with ZF Group. We welcome you, Dr. Venugopal. Som Sundar, our third panelist, Som Sundar Konduri, is working as a senior director with HR BP lead. Som Sundar, you come on. You and I work in the same HR space. He works with ADP. Som Sundar holds the esteemed position of Senior Director and India in HR Business and Business Partnering, HR BP, and a lead at ADP. With an extensive background in HR, Som Sundar brings a wealth of experience in his role. He is instrumental in guiding ADP's HR strategies and initiatives in India, ensuring that they are closely aligned with the company's overpowering objectives. Som Sundar's leadership and dedication is elevating HR process to make HR practices make him a key contributor to ADP's continued success in the ADP market in India and abroad. Our fourth panelist, Amit Sharma, is the Senior Director Data Science with Global AI Accelerator, GAIA, and a leadership team working with Ericsson. In his current role, Amit is responsible for building data-driven solutions using AI and ML technologies towards intelligent automation in the telecom domain. Prior to this, he was leading AI ML capability for ADP in the HR/talent domain. With 24 years of experience in product development and technology leadership, Amit is extremely passionate about design, architecture, data, and loves to solve real-world problems with technology. We welcome all of you. I'm Srilata Shankar. I'll be moderating the session. I am an HR and L&D leader like Som. I have been working in various companies, banking, telecom, IT, and ITES. I also teach HR at MBA colleges. I conduct soft skill workshops for MBA colleges, engineering colleges, and corporate companies. I do a little bit of content writing. I've been dabbling with poetry for the last 5 years. I've written about 37 poems so far. I hope to publish a book soon. I have a creative side to me. I do tangible painting, block printing, tie and dye, and pottery. I have an adventure side to me as well. I have done bungee jumping, paragliding, ziplining, and Tarzan swing. I've added another layer to my personality recently, collaborating with ITTV Global Media. We started a leadership series talk. We've done 3 episodes so far, and I hope to interview all of you, if not all of you, at least most of you. And I hope to touch 100 episodes soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Srilata. Before kicking off this session, this conference is live streamed on mystartuptv and ITTV. Both mystartuptv and ITTV are media partners for today. So we'll have the link up on the slide in a while. So please share in your group. So those who couldn't make it to the day today in physical appearance, so they can watch it online on YouTube, on their channels. Thank you.
Thanks, Abhilash, for the announcement. We'll start the panel discussion with my question to you. Can you share a specific example of an AI application in your industry that has brought significant change or value?
Okay. Firstly, coming from the HR space, representing the HR fraternity, along with Lata over here, thank you for having me, first of all, amongst all the product management community. Oftentimes got tempted to move on to the product side as well. Amit knows this, some of my other fraternity people, Ranjan knows this. So really glad and privileged to be here. Now, on the technology front, I may not be as an expert as all of you sitting here, but definitely on the thought process and approaches on how we can enable and facilitate some of these things as a culture across amongst all the employees in the organization is where my expertise lies in. So coming to the question on what we have done in the space, it's the buzzword right now. But first and foremost, I want to give the context again is we may have a lot of knowledge and expertise with us. Each one of us brings to the table, but do we showcase all of it for the reason of showing it, or to really solve some real problems? So for us at ADP, it's majorly the whole strategy is towards client being a North Star for us. As you know, how do we look at the experiences itself for that matter? What are we delivering for them, right? Ramesh spoke about the experiences of Apple, etc. That was the North Star for them. functionality, capabilities, we may have all of that, but what are we trying to address? So in that light, keeping that particular aspect in mind, how can we enable and provide better experience for your clients? One of the examples I can share is we have something called as chat summarization. This is something that in one of the products, a lot of our client service reps receive calls, they have to take case notes. It's a manual, tedious process. However, we have lately integrated that. We have integrated the Gen AI into the systems wherein they can focus taking the calls and provide those insightful expertise while addressing their problems and not worry about taking notes, right? The Gen AI tool just captures all the information, summarizes, and it's bye-bye case notes. So that's a major achievement. Imagine the amount of work it saves for the client service reps in providing and just being focused on the call when they take in resoluting, providing resolutions for people who are calling us. So that's one of the examples, at least in the coming from the HCM space, being a HR practitioner, a real life example that we can talk about on the strides that we have already taken at ADP.
Right. I move on to you. What are some unique challenges your industry faces when implementing AI, and how are these being addressed?
Sure, thanks Lata, and thanks for having me, guys. I've worked with ADP for so long that each one of you, I think I can connect with most of you anyways, and happy to be here, so thanks for that. And for the last 4 years, I've been working in telecom domain. Since you guys are abundantly aware of the problems in HR, I'll talk about the telecom domain where we have been trying to and been successful at applying some of the AI solutions. But to her question about what are the challenges faced, let me tell you the problem in the first place, because otherwise I cannot express the challenge contextually. So the problem we are solving are in the sense energy and sustainability. Energy management is a big deal. Nowadays, as we roll out 5G, the problem is these are power hungry devices. To serve better, to give you the bandwidth, like 1 Gbps per user kind of a bandwidth throughput, all of it requires a lot of power consumption. And those cell towers you see and those rectangular antennas tilting like a 120-degree angle, those are actually today the ones that connect to you, talk to you like several times in a single millisecond. To be able to do that, it hogs a lot of energy. And to be able to manage that energy, they have these things called sleep modes. So to be able to turn on the sleep mode or turn it off at the right time, depending on the expected traffic or the current traffic, in a way that reduces the energy footprint, but at the same time does not take away the optimal delivery of quality of service should there be a change in the frequency of people, number of people. So all of this takes a lot of computing, and that's what AI is there to solve. Now, in solving this, coming to her question about what are the challenges faced, the challenges are along, again, this is the engineering domain. You're solving telecom problems. So the problems are also that you have to solve them on the edge. If you want to use AI, here you have to have AI kind of a capability. It's far more easier if you have a SaaS-based hosting where you can also deploy your heavy lifting on the SaaS side and have the solutions, the smarts delivered on the edge. But here you have to make a millisecond, microsecond-based decision. So putting it all on the embedded, space is where the challenges lie from a hardware and point of view. From a software and the compute point of view, the amount of data is humongous. And with 5G, as you know, is a higher, a millimeter wave, so a higher frequency kind of a communication carrier. So what happens is with higher frequency, the kind of range that gets reduced. You all know the AM radios used to have like countrywide ranges, while FMs have citywide. And 5G has a few hundred meters, whereas 4G goes in the 2-kilometer range. So because it gets absorbed so fast, there are far more towers and these devices which need to now talk to each other and far more data than ever. So if the data plane gets used by its own bandwidth in order to manage itself, that is going to be a big challenge. So apart from putting things into embedded, we also deal with this handling. How can we minimize the data transfer for managing the network itself in an intelligent way, yet provide the optimal energy consumption and quality of service to the end user? Some of the examples, there are so many I could talk all day, but I'll just hand it over to my colleagues now.
Thank you. Dr. Venugopal, moving on to you. In your view, what are the gaps between the potential of AI and its current real-world impact?
Yeah. As I said, like, first of all, I want to define what is AI, okay? AI in a nutshell is called a paradigm, okay? So everything starts with data, okay? You have a data, and then the data has to be used for your decision making. So in the process, the first step here is, the first and foremost step is data management. You don't get cleaned data like what you get a textbook data kind of thing. So the first and foremost thing is the data which has to be managed, okay? And the managed data, we need to generate an insights. So there is a data management, then we need to use it for insight generation, then the whole process has to be automated. So this process of automation is basically, most of the processes are messy, and most of the processes are kind of where we do a lot of human intervention, and then we tend to see a lot of mistakes. Then the third and important point is in automation side of it. Then the fourth point here is, once you have that, you should also have a predictability of the data. The data what you have should able to predict something in the future, or it can predict if it is a time series kind of thing, we can predict a future, or if it is a cross-sectional kind of thing, we can use the next happening event across the similarity kind of stuff. And once you have a predictability, that predictability should lead to a concept called, what you call it as, it has to use for a decision making. So if you put all these 5 things together, I call it as a paradigm, okay? Predicting, okay? And then using for results orientation, and then it will be used for all these 5 things will put as a PAIA RIDAM, okay? So that's the AI is. And if you ask the particular question about what are the real life use cases of AI, so there are 2 aspects of AI, okay? And this is a context of product management. So there are 2 concepts again here. The first concept is AI product manager and using AI in product management or product development, okay? How can you use, what is the difference between AI product manager and regular product manager? So AI product managers are basically, they generally come from a statistical background, okay? So which uses a data and then try to make some decision making from that. For every and each and every action, there will be depends upon data, okay? And what this AI use for a product management and product development, that's a different paradigm. There are a lot of AI tools where your decision making becomes very informed, okay? Most of your decision making has to be informed with the data, or it has to be backed with something. So, and now with the evolution of generative AI basically becomes most of your tasks in product management very useful. So that's the kind of thing. Coming back to your question, madam, how does real life AI is different from the generative AI? So in real life, you think that everything can be possible, okay? I think if you talk about something like for example, you ask me how an AI will be used, okay? So think back to the ages when you have to depend, when you are driving, you have to depend upon someone, okay, where you have to ask a lot of people, you have to talk to a lot of people to reach some place. Now you don't need, right? Everything comes from how much of time it takes, and you can give more predictive kind of thing. So that's AI will make your real lives, okay? At the same time, the products which we are trying to build, like I would like to give one highlight about the product which we are trying to build. It's called ALI, Application Lifecycle Management is a concept most of you are familiar with, but we are trying to add that management with an AI and make an application lifecycle intelligence. So when you have an applications to build, this all your applications to be an AI driven. It talks about your past experiences and past failures. That past failures will basically help you to predict the next products and next applications what you are trying to build in a more intelligent way. So these are the few things which you can use. And also we have come up with a product called CVT, which is Computer Vision Toolbox. It's a computer vision is a popular tool. We uses an image data to find out some things. But how this computer vision toolbox are used here is, we are trying to predict any kind of an, it's a detection is different, and prediction of that particular products, whether it's going to be failure or something. So what we are trying to do use here is, we are trying to use a concept called the composite AI framework, and which is kind of thing like we are trying to use the different data at one go to answer a lot of things. Like we are using a process data in manufacturing as well as the image data, and then what we'll do is, if you are trying to run a process to make a product, that particular product, whatever we are trying to build, it has to be defect free. At the same time, the process has to be streamlined.
Thank you, Venugopal.
Yeah.
Paucity of time, I'm sorry. Please keep your answers short. Krishna Chaitanya, my question to you is, what does your organization take into consideration to ensure that AI projects lead to tangible beneficial outcomes?
Sure. If you can hear me, I'll do a quick introduction of what we do. I'm the founder and CEO of Zapero. What we basically do is we try and use generative AI to augment the creative workflows of designers in the fashion industry. What we've seen, I mean, it's been a couple of years since I started, working on this startup, and I have a business and an engineering background in the past. What we've seen is, if you see the fashion industry, right, the bottleneck there becomes the creative people. You find a lot of cool people doing all sorts of, design work, and it becomes a very solid concrete workflow, which is difficult to disrupt. I mean, because it's difficult to program creativity, right? It's a thing of heart. I mean, it's all about arts. It's stuff like that. What we've seen a couple of years ago was that generative adversarial networks, computer vision in general, has the potential to disrupt this creative process. That was the use case we started to pursue, I think a couple of years ago. We've seen that design is a critical component in this industry, and we thought that building a SaaS product that can sort of mechanize this process, there is some merit to doing it. I mean, end of the day, I'm sort of walking you through the journey of an entrepreneur, because that was the use case we pursued, right? What we've realized is, while there is benefit, while there is merit to building such a product, monetizing that is very, very difficult. And we started digging deeper into the industry that we were operating in. A lot of people were happy to have AI produce interesting designs. I mean, what you would call prints. I mean, some of you are wearing fabrics which have printed artworks on top of them. It could be a woman's dress or a top, etc., right? The industry in general sort of took that with a lot of excitement when we pushed forward, let's say, generative AI solutions as services. But monetizing it was difficult. And then as a company, what we've done is we've expanded our business scope much deeper. So we are now building a vertical AI. So it's no longer just design randomly, but design in the context of the market. For example, in the industry, one of the biggest problems that the fashion industry faces is dead stock, right? There's a lot of hue and cry about the industry being one of the biggest polluters, right? There's a lot of fabric being used up that's not being consumed, that finds its way into landfills, etc. Sustainability is a big problem in the industry. So it sort of comes from, let's say, the speculative nature of the industry as to how they design, what kind of volumes they commit, etc. So we are today at Zapero in the process of building AI which can produce designs that have an increased likelihood of success in the market. Right now we are sort of bringing a scientific approach to sort of committing fabric and garments. So the idea is to, as a company, make a dent in those dead stocks and sort of improve the profitability of the brands, etc. Right.
Thank you. My creative side perked me up, and I will take it offline with you to understand more about the creativity.
Definitely.
Amit, moving on to you. At Ericsson, what makes AI more accountable, accessible, and understandable for non-experts?
Oh, yeah. So that's actually, that question can be taken up in two ways. One is, how does AI become all of that for people who want to use AI to build solutions? And the other is, how do we make it trustable and explainable to the end users, and both of them are pertinent. To the first question, there has to be an AI literacy in the org. And since you ask about Ericsson, I have seen there's a huge investment in bringing everyone up to a certain level of the AI understanding, its utility, application. Because unless we are there, there is always this either a Terminator view of AI, maybe this mic's waxing and waning, as they call it in telecom. Yeah. So basically, training and a lot of this workshops to be able to lift off the entire Ericsson as an organization to a level where everyone gets it. But now the people who solve it definitely go through the next level of understanding, and there's a constant learning in today's world that has to be there to make such things feasible. And obviously there has to be a research angle to everything an organization does, in AI at least, one who's figuring out what is possible and the other who's actually doing it there and now. So the engineering part, where me and my team are. So we have a huge research team, and then we have this Gaia team, the Global AI Accelerator team, a bunch of data scientists, engineers, and product managers who work together to realize those AI visions from a feasibility study into the production view. To the second part about explainability, trustworthy AI, reliable AI, explainable AI is like no more a wishful thinking, it is an ask. And given the privacy and the GDPR constraints about how's your AI telling something, what is the action I need to take, even from an actionability, accountability standpoint, these are becoming almost like a essential ask in every solution we give. So nowadays we have started thinking about this aspect right from the day we start building the solution. And sometimes, even if it comes at a cost of a little lesser accuracy, we prefer the simpler and more explainable models, because as they call it, the Occam's razor, we go for a simpler solution, even if it means a little, dent in the level of accuracy. At the same time, one more thing we do is to build the trust in the client, we have to have the expectations set right. Many times, product managers will find themselves promising the world, curing cancer and whatnot through AI. So that's where we have to set the right expectations and say that what works, it's a probabilistic thing. It will not work every time. But over a period of time, we promise you this kind of a ROI. For example, if we are into predicting a server failure, over a period of time, we'll save you 60% of your revenues or the cost that goes into fixing, because we will be providing predictive maintenance. Last but not least, UX, which even from my experience in ADP as into building the AI products and in Ericsson, we have to keep it simple. Sometimes we get overwhelmed and just throw in all the gauges and meters and whatnots into the UI. The users don't need it. They just need to know as much as they need to know. So exploratory, analysis is what they need to find out, and progressive disclosure, like we call it in the UX parlance, right? So that's what we follow. So
Right.
I'll stop here.
Right. So moving on to the HR space, which both of us belong to, how is AI being used in ADP to improve the management and development of human capital, and what is the impact that you have observed on an employee's growth and productivity?
Okay. A bit of a loaded question, if I may say. It's a learning phase for across the board, especially in large organizations. Like I lean on what Amit mentioned about, and Mr. Dr. Venugopal also mentioned, data. Like we deal with huge, massive amounts of data. The first thing that comes to mind is, how do we have a governance model around this whole, it's definitely got everybody excited. But how can we build a governance model where we have, certain regulations to be taken care of so that we don't mess around with the data. There are data privacy laws we have to be extremely cognizant about, more from the state laws and the country laws. Then come in the client side as well. Like, privacy is very critical, and that's where we thrive on as most of the organizations thrive on that aspect. It's confidential, and you don't want to give out data. So how do we protect some of those aspects? That becomes the base foundational elements as an organization. But how do we then translate that back to the employees on the ground? How do they understand about it? One is educating them. We are telling them that yes, we all are excited about this. We want to dip our hands into this. We want this to be enabling our products and solutions to give a better experience for the clients. But at the same time, we need to do it in a measured approach, in a thoughtful approach. So how do we build that ecosystem, the safe space where we can experiment, where we can fail fast, but at the same time not at the cost of data privacy and confidentiality. So we conduct a lot of these forums, like Ranjan and his team have a lot of conversations. We want to encourage and bubble up the information, speak it up. We want people to talk about it and not be hush-hush about it. That's when most of these things can come up. It also helps us understand what the expectations are. How is it that we can enable those forums where people can speak up about some of these things, come up with their ideas, how is it that they can implement, etc., right? Again, I'll go back to the initial point that I had mentioned. It's exciting, you want to use it to the best possible extent, showcase your talent, everything is fine. But what is it solving for you? What is the problem? Fall in love with the problem, take it step by step, and that's where we have to inculcate these habits within the employees as well and ensure them, empower them. And that's the approach that we have taken. So far it's working well, and we are extremely transparent about some of these things and communicating to them as well. So somewhere it's the faith we have in them, and the employees also trust the management in turn that they will be enabling as we move forward on that. So that's
how has productivity improved or changed?
Productivity improved or changed. One of the, I would say, examples that I can talk about is going back to the example that I mentioned about how we did away with case notes, right? I mean, imagine the time you are listening into a call, trying to jot down while, taking the call, and then after keeping the call, you again jot down. The amount of time it takes, right? Massive improvements in productivity. I mean, it's already coming summarized. All you have to do is just look at it. At the end of the day, it doesn't take away your job. It's at the end of the day, there is human intervention always that will come into place to validate what the Gen AI is doing as well. So that's where productivity definitely gains, at least what we are taking feedback from our own associates on how they are finding this experience for themselves, apart from what we are giving to the clients. So massive improvements on that front as well.
Krishna Chaitanya, can you share an example of a product or initiative that has successfully demonstrated AI?
What we do, right? I mean, generative AI, it's probably the coolest thing because...
I like the way he said coolest.
No, it is, right? Otherwise, most of the other things are enterprise solutions, but I think what we are doing is really creative AI, less generative AI, more creative AI. I'm sorry, what was your question again?
I'll read it out for you. Can you share an example of a product or initiative that has successfully demonstrated or democratized AI?
Maybe my answer or my context is not very pertinent to this particular question, but what we've done, the fact that at least in a sufficiently long term, we want to get to a point where consumers can design for themselves, right? We are, in fact, when we started out as a company, our solution was primarily for the large apparel brands. We were working with the likes of H&M, Myntra. The idea was to become a SaaS AI for their design teams. Now we've sort of pivoted away from that, and we are now targeting, what we are witnessing is young consumers, particularly Gen Z, Gen Alpha, their shopping preferences are changing, and they're now no longer buying from these large brands, but they're buying from these influencer-led brands. Like they're shopping a lot on TikTok or places like Instagram. In fact, there's a cool stat. In the first 3 months of this year, in Indonesia alone, TikTok did a commerce of around $3 billion. So the places that we believe people shop, they are moving away. The loyalty that people have for brands is shifting to smaller brands. In the past, we probably had 1,000 brands. We are getting to a point in the future where people are going to shop from 100,000 brands, right? Which means you have smaller and smaller brands catering to smaller and smaller customer, demographics, right? So the reason we exist, the reason a tech company should operate in an industry like apparel is because of this democratization, right? Is because of this creator economy that's coming up, and we are trying to build tools for those creators. And it's conceivable that in the near future, that consumers can start designing for themselves. I mean, if a woman wants to design an evening dress for herself, it's conceivable that she can actually get on top of, on this platform and sort of input her needs, her context, and AI is going to start giving options. So you're no longer bound by somebody else's creativity. So it's truly opening up creativity in a very commercial space like apparel.
So even if I don't know C of creativity, I can design a dress for myself?
Precisely. All you need is a vision for what you want, and the idea. So obviously AI is not going to do all of it, right? And there's a lot of work that needs to be done around it, which is the vertical AI that we are building. The idea is to convert every individual into a creator, at least for themselves.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Dr. Venugopal, as a product leader, what top trends do you foresee in the AI domain, and how are you preparing your team for these changes?
Yeah. See, first of all, the organization has we started to change ourselves to a data-driven organization. So obviously there is a lot of changes of trends and patterns in terms of this. So now one thing which Krishna Chaitanya is trying to tell, a new trend is emerging called prompt engineering. Okay, so I think in future it's going to be more prompt engineers, and then most of the people, we have different challenges. The first challenge is people coming from a software engineering background to an AI domain. So that's one challenge which we have to address. So what happens there is they use a different process at all. Like they use a process called DevOps kind of a thing, where they want to make that product into the existing. So the second change here is, if you are coming from an DevOps side of things, it never works in an AI kind of thing. It's going to be, you have to use at one point of an ML. So the first and foremost thing here is, we have to develop an engineers, which are basically an AI engineers, and it is very difficult to find at the context. So what we are trying to do here is, we are trying to develop a citizen developers, do IT by yourself, right? And citizen data scientist. So that's one way we are addressing that. And second thing is the top trends of AI. I already mentioned about prompt engineering and Gen AI. Gen AI for a company with focus of R&D like us is a problematic. We can't use an open AI kind of frameworks here, because our entire things will have issues of the design and other things and R&D kind of thing. So we have to put a lot of governance on the cyber security, as well as the governance on people try to use that open AI kind of thing. So there is a lot of baggage. And then it also should facilitate the people, they have to use it. Like otherwise we will be a back trend, like what Ramesh was mentioning about Nokia was not able to innovate, or Nokia was not able to ready for a disruptive technology and design technology, right? So we also need to be there. So what we are trying to do is, we are trying to use and use cases which we have developed, and then we are trying to use the use cases which we are trying to use for our own purpose. So the top trends of AIs are, like I already mentioned, something called composite AI. Composite AI is one fascinating stuff. Like now, for example, it's not one-dimensional way you can get a data for one problem. Like for example, talk about a problem like warranty, right? Earlier, warranty used to be driven only through the data of claims and other stuff. Now you have to use an images and other stuff to be used here. And also we have to get from our company, we have a production to end product. And we deal with a lot of technologies. We build in products which are basically manufacturing and hardware side of it, and also we build in software side of a products. So there's a fusion which is required here. So there will be a transition kind of thing. And I already mentioned about citizen data scientist, which we are trying to build with a lot of coaching and all. The other trend of AI here is Gen AI. I already mentioned about Gen AI and then the open AI kind of platforms, which we have to be little very, very cognizant. And then trust, and then value centers. So these are some of the things which we keep in this. And future AI trends is it's going to be not with an unidimensional analysis, it will be a multi-factored and multi-dimensional ways. So you have to be ready, and at one point of time, we have to make our workforce ready to change. So the digital transformation is one of the biggest thing, and change management is the things which we have to be ready for the future.
Yeah. So I'm coming back to you. In ADP, what is, from the HR space again, as we increasingly incorporate AI into our workplaces, what strategies can be employed to ensure that human skills and talents remain in the forefront of value creation? My second question is, how can AI be used to augment rather than replace human capabilities?
Value creation. So one example I can quote is how, we have a product called Role. Recently, it's something that has been, Role has been rolled out. And it addresses a market where, it's completely digital. There's minimal involvement. You just roll it out to the clients, and it's taken care. It's a conversational user interface, basically, right? So imagine where there are large products that need to be implemented, the amount of life cycle that from an implementation standpoint that you have to go to versus something like so simple that you just implement it quickly and then there is no maintenance needed, etc. So that is more from a value creation of how quickly it can be deployed to clients, how it starts learning immediately and it can answer completely, right? It's not about just somewhere. I remember Mr. Ramesh talking about chat interface where policies, if you have to look at it and it can give you the policy. But however, within the policy, if you have further deeper questions, who, what, why, where, this particular product of ours, it kind of addresses those aspects as well. So how did we get there? That is the second phase where, again, Gen AI, it's like a child. We are the people as human beings and practitioners who have to teach that, unless it can only be as intelligent as the number of, it's an iteration process. Just like a kid tries to walk, run, and other things, behave. Similarly, it has to be in the similar guardrails. Those guardrails needs to exist, but at the same time, how do we keep iterating it, training it, giving those responses? Whether it is right or wrong, at the end of the day, it cannot do it on its own. So that's where a human element comes into play in how we can train it better, and that's how we can go about it.
Will AI replace HR department?
I wouldn't be sitting here if that was the case, because long back I recollect, where a lot of HCM systems came into place, and I remember I started my career long back, 17 years ago, where I was filing documents. And now it's completely digital. You hardly have to file any of the employee records. Does that mean that my job has gone away? No. It's become much more meatier actually, because I can spend that time in other things, right? We become creators, we become designers, developers, more strategic. We become product managers. Everything that we do when we interface with the business leaders on strategy, how do we go about it? It becomes more thinking game rather than operational and transactional stuff. So my job is safe.
I'm sorry, as an HR person, I'm a little more partial to Som. Som, I have another question for you. As in the recruitment space, how's it helping? How's it getting people on board much faster?
Yeah. That's one of the hot spaces right now. In fact, a lot of the studies and articles, in case if some of you have already gone through it, you will see that is one of the spaces. Two spaces where Gen AI, especially on the HCM side for HR practitioners, where it has the maximum impact would be on the hiring side, the talent acquisition space, and the second one is the L&D space. The first one, of course, the talent acquisition.
Especially talent acquisition.
Yeah. A lot of churn goes on, you have to sift through so many profiles. How do you create good job descriptions? How do you ensure that you get the right set of resumes for the right roles, what you're looking at? From the amount of screening that a person might have to do, how can you leverage that, the Gen AI into doing that for you? And rather than sifting, individually going through as a person hundreds of resumes, how can you get those top 20, 25 from Gen AI and then look at it to see the relevance and quickly take it forward from there? So that is one example I can quote.
Thank you. Krishna Chaitanya, can you share an example of a potential risk or challenge you encountered in an AI project and how is it mitigated?
I think, can you hear?
Yes. You'll have to take the mic a little closer.
Right. Now, people talk about, no, I'll have to use this, thank you. People talk about the risk AI poses to humanity, and I suppose most of the imagery is around nuclear war, or it's gonna weaponized AI sort of killing people and stuff like that, all that dystopian future. I suppose it is much simpler. AI's risks to the society are probably more around manipulation of information. For example, it's easy to now create new content, new imagery of things that have not happened, right? It's on places like Twitter, you could post an image that is generated by AI, which actually of an event that hasn't happened, which can trigger a lot of conflict in society. I think the risks posed are probably more around creation of information, which is really generative AI. We're talking about content being created by AI, which is, it's difficult to recognize that it is machine made. And this is still early days. When you go to ChatGPT today, it's going to give you a few answers which sort of look real but are not real. An expert can easily distinguish and say, hey, it's machine made versus human made. If we continue down the path that we are going down, in a few years from now, content generated by AI will be indistinguishable from human generated information, and that has serious societal implications. I suppose that is really the serious risk. And yeah, it's really around generative AI, right? That's a big problem.
Sure. Dr. Venugopal, how does your organization ensure transparency and accountability in its AI implementations?
Yeah, see, first of all, we have one way of working, okay? One of the thing is we'll make accountable, okay? And then the second way is we also ask people to be more innovative, and we provide an equal opportunities and then democratization of things, okay? At the same time, we have a very, we have also in this security aspects, like cyber security, and also our communications are more direct. And then we have an comms team which basically works with us to make sure that all the things should be there. And then, as I said, ours is an R&D organization, so all the people knows what is happening there, but we'll also ensure that that information won't get leaked to any other external parties. So to be frank, you'll all get surprised. We are not supposed to use Google in our, okay? Right. So, yeah, no, nothing. But we are more innovative, and we actually work for all the cars, like connected cars, and we also work something like we use an ADAS, which is basically for the cars which goes, and then driverless cars is a future of mobility. But we have a very strong team on generative AI. Okay, we built our own systems, own designs, and everything. But everything will be developed within ourselves. Okay.
Sure. Amit, what skills do you believe will be critical for future product leaders in the era of AI?
Yeah, one of them will be constant learning. I think that's given because the world's changing too fast. So to be able to figure what's out there as a capability, but at the same time not getting too hyped up is I would say is a very important thing, because like Ramesh also put it, putting the horse behind the cart before the horse, you are trying to, given Gen AI, what can I do with it is the question to ask still, okay, but I have to use Gen AI and do something with it, can be a very misleading attitude to have, and sometimes leads to failure. So in my mind, constant learning and being even more innovative than ever, because the way AI has cut through jobs is no more in the order of their being labor intensive and so on. It has cut through the creative aspects, and maybe Gen AI will also solve the problem of data scarcity, which was another thing which probably held up many AI prospects. So I would say all of this put together, but the basics of product management, the product management 101 doesn't change. Knowing the problem, finding the right problem to solve, figuring out, understanding the user. With those in mind, I think we have a bunch of rock stars here, so they'll go all the way into building great products.
All right, we're really running out of time. I want one-line answer from all of you. On a lighter note, if you could have an AI system perfectly perform one task for you in your personal life, what would it be and why?
I have the mic, I could start. Depends on if that AI was like capable in a physical way, then I would use it to keep my room in order, which is actually a mess. If it had a emotional capabilities, surpassing human ones, I would use it to maybe understand what my wife means when she says something. I think it's typical husband problem. I don't think I'm just representing myself.
Very, very man answer.
I'll hand it over to Chaitanya.
Personally, I hate driving, so I hope that we'll get to a point soon enough where sort of AI can take over driving, especially at least when you get on a highway, right? But now that I'm here, I just wanted to take a quick minute, and for any aspiring entrepreneurs, there's a lot of product managers here, and I think one logical extension for any product manager is to want to go out into the real world and actually build your own solutions. I just wanted to sort of summarize my own journey over the last 2.5 years as to what we started doing. And to borrow from Ramesh's comments earlier, technology is a necessary condition but not a sufficient condition for building products. And I would take one step further and say product itself is a necessary condition but not a sufficient condition to building a business in the real world, right? You may have a fully, a fluently functioning product, but if you can't monetize it, there's just no sense in doing it. In my own example, I wanted to build a SaaS which designers could subscribe, pay me $10 a month globally. That's I'm thinking of $100 million revenue, right? Potentially, you're looking at the use case.
We'll have to take it offline. Dr. Venugopal.
Yeah, if you ask me the personal product which I feel like, which manages my my expenses and my financials, okay. So there are a lot of AI apps, but it has to be in some bot which has to tell me, like it at the same time, it should not also tell many times, okay. For example, that's another problem, information overloaded, okay. And then too much of information and then you become a digital addict, okay. That's the thing, okay. So it has to be, you should have an alert mechanism, but that alert should be contained to one level.
So what's your last thought?
Personally, I have a background in computer science engineering and MBA in HR. Throughout my career, I have struggled. Still, actually, I try to find a balance between logic, because primarily I'm driven that way from my thought process, logic, and emotions being in HR. So something that I would probably leverage, Gen AI to find that balance and, make its life harder.
Thank you so much. Wonderful talking to you and learning lots from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
We request Abhilash to honor the guests. Give the bags also. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks you. Tea break, okay. 10 minutes.
15.
We break for 15 minutes, precisely 15 minutes for a tea break. I'm going to be like a school teacher calling you back in 15 minutes.
disclaimer. I told that. Yes.
Check. 1, 2, 3. Check, check. 1, 2, 3.
హలో ఒకసారి ఆగు. లైవ్ చూస్తున్నాను. హలో కరెక్ట్గా వస్తుంది అది చూడు. ఓకే
स्क्रीन दिखाना है ना तुम्हारे ऊपर बड़ा स्क्रीन अभी देर से आता है
Mic testing. 1, 2, 3. Audio, you want to hear for the audio side of it or? Okay. Hello? वीडियो कॉल बाउंस इसमें आता रंगा देखो डायरेक्ट बाय आता है नहीं ओके you're able to hear me okay continue to speak good no they're not able to hear me there is a lag yes definitely there is a lag of exactly around 35 to 40 seconds 40 seconds precise lag voice lag video lag also that's what I'm saying video is oh that video itself is 30-second lag that you know huh?
Ladies and gentlemen, keeping time in mind, we need to settle down quickly. Request all of you to come in and settle down, please. Sandeep, you'll have to ask everybody to come in.
Sure, sure.
Haripriya, is that your daughter?
That is my daughter. Yeah, both of them are my daughters. One is in Hyderabad. She works in no, she's also interested.
Haripriya is a very bad name.
Yes,
Like the minute I said, okay, Haripriya has to get back I don't know about the brand for that. She's a damage.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Same as Arun. When I spoke to him the first time on the phone, he said,
HPC cluster in like 2 days. But if you're around a tree, it'll take like a month for you to get all this in.
Of time, please come in and settle down, please. Sandeep, I request you to get in the audience. Those of you who are standing outside and having your tea breaks, please come into the auditorium and settle down. A housekeeping announcement, please switch off your mobiles or put it on silent mode. I repeat, a housekeeping announcement, please switch off your mobiles or put it on silent mode. Sandeep, I request you to get in the audience from outside, please. Settle down, please. We have a second panel discussion. The topic being mastering product reader. We have a second panel discussion. The topic being mastering product skills in Gen AI era. I invite Hema Shivaram Krishnan, who is the moderator for this session. Welcome, Hema. I'm sorry. Haripriya Shivaram Krishnan. My sincere apologies. I'm called Hema at home, so that came naturally. Who's the moderator for this session? Haripriya, welcome. She currently is serving as a vice president at State Street Global Advisors. Prior to her role at State Street, Haripriya held key positions in prominent organizations including Citi, JP Morgan Chase and Company. Extensive experience also includes roles at Sun Microsystems, TCS, ABN AMRO Bank, NV, where she honed her skills in areas such as trade, operations, GIS analysis, and quality leadership. With her wealth of experience and expertise in the banking and business strategy domains, we welcome Haripriya to the dais and moderate the session. Our other panelists are Trinath Reddy. We are delighted to have you with us. Trinath Reddy, a dynamic, multi-skilled individual and head of technology at KK HR. Having spent almost a decade at KK and companies like Technovent, he played a pivotal role in shaping the company's technological landscape. Our second panelist is Ashish Mittal. Ashish, I know you personally as well. It's wonderful to have you here. He works with Srinidhi Group of institutions. He's heading the HR department. He works as a chief HR officer. Ashish is a renowned figure in the HR industry, having earned recognition as one of Asia's 100 power leaders in HR and securing a spot in the prestigious Forbes India top 50 leaders. I think we need to give him a good applause. Also served as a general manager, head HR, and deputy general manager in companies like Pearson, Infosys, BPN, Manipal International University. He has also held key positions in Akshaya Patra Foundation and the Heritage Foundation. Our next panelist is Professor Raghu Reddy. He's an accomplished professional, currently serving as the Associate Professor and Head of Software Engineering Research Center at IITH. With a tenure spanning 12 years at IIITH, Raghu has held pivotal roles, including program head for MTech in product design and management programs, director and for PG certificate in software engineering for data science, as well as previous positions at prestigious institutions like Rochester Institute of Technology, and Colorado State University. With his extensive background and continuous contributions to the field of software engineering, we welcome you, Raghu. Our next panelist is Sai Satesh Vedam. A versatile and accompanied product leader. He is a chief product officer and co-founder at the Institute of Product Leadership, where he plays a pivotal role in shaping product leadership and education. Sai Satish's career journey expands. Sai Satish's expansive career travels around, includes a remarkable stint at Oracle. I wouldn't like to call a stint, a huge tenure, where he has held roles such as Principal Product Manager, Director of Product Management, and Senior Director of Product Management, along with contribution to Sun Microsystems. Welcome to all of you, and Haripriya, I hand it over to you.
Hello all. Is this okay? Perfect. Good morning, a very happy Friday. I think from morning we had a lot of wonderful sessions, right? And I'm very, very privileged to be among this panel. I think brings around 75 plus years of experience. So today you heard the topic, mastering product skills in the Gen AI era. What I would say is we would broadly cover, 5 themes, and I would encourage audience to keep your questions ready. We will pause in between to take some questions from you all as well. So broadly, we'll cover impact of Gen AI on the product skills, the role that HR will bring in, the product management, plus the continuous learning in Gen AI era. We'll touch a little on Indian market and specifically to organization, and last, how we build future product leaders. So with no further ado, I'll get started. Probably Professor Sai, I'll get started with you. You bring in a rich experience in product management, and your passion towards products is very, very inspiring. If I may ask, with generative AI integrating with product lifecycle, how do you think the traditional skills will have to diversify to, kind of blend into the new one?
Okay. So allow me for 30 seconds
Sure.
to just understand our audience.
Perfect.
Like a good product manager, you should really understand whose needs are you addressing and how you're going to do that. So a really quick question. How many of you here are in product management roles with more than 10 plus years experience, or more than 10 years? Or at least you think you are in a product manager role? Now I'll tell you why I'm asking that. Because we have very creative titles in India, isn't it? For product managers especially. You could be a requirement scientist for all you know. This is an emerging title in many companies that I see, right? So good, so about 30% of you are in product roles with at least 10 plus years experience. The remaining ones either are aspiring to get into that role or you are curious about that. That's my assumption, right? Aspiring to and do that. Okay, so now before I jump into and answer that generative AI thing specifically, let me here is the perspectives that I will bring in. There are 3 points of view that I will bring in, right? The first one is for all the programs that IPL, this IPL, not the other IPL, Institute of Product Leadership, works with lots of industry practitioners and leaders who are building products in various companies, building companies, right? And continuously we work with them. And one question we ask them regularly: what is changing in the landscape that you think we should bring about to help people get better at? This is a continuous question that I ask. That's a first perspective. The second one is the hiring manager's perspective. Because almost about 8 to 9 companies every month come to hire at IPL, and all of them are looking at different skills, and are they changing? So how important is generative AI? Are they looking for any of those skills right now while hiring? And the third one, my own journey, my own perspectives as a product coach, as an executive coach, who I work with hundreds of people in helping them transition into those careers. Now, fourth, I did not do deliberately. I have not consulted ChatGPT. Right? So these are the 3 points of views that I will try to bring in so that you know where they are coming from, right? Now, I'd like to jump in and talk about, before generative AI, what are the core product skills? And there are lots of competencies in that, right? And just to level set everybody's understanding, at least for the purpose of this discussion, I want to frame what product management is. As I said, there is lots and lots of definitions, lots of misunderstanding in the industry. I spent 25 years working as an engineer, 14 years as a product manager and product leader, and I work with hundreds of companies which are trying to hire, right? So when I say product management, I'm referring to role, not a title. And so what is that role? That role is very simple, very difficult to achieve, but very simple. It's an art and science of identifying the market needs and driving the team towards creating compelling, profitable, and competitive products. Now, there are a few key words here. The art and science. Second one is driving the team. Now, if you're a product owner, you might be thinking you own the product. And a lot of you may have heard of this cliches that product manager is the CEO of the product. Right? You are driving the team towards creating compelling, competitive, and profitable products. That's it. That is essentially product management. Now, in that context, what are the core skills? Market analysis, which has many competencies. I won't go into that unless you have questions, right? And because we want to see how generative AI now impacts or influences all these things. Strategic planning, product planning, go-to-market, and sales enablement. The go-to-market and sales enablement part comes at a product leadership level where you interlock with product marketing and do that. But the first three, market analysis, strategic planning, and product planning in the context of products are super important. So now let's bring in this new beast.
The Gen AI.
About, right? The generative AI. Now, I'm sure everybody has heard, and that's why you're all here. And I believe we are at a tipping point of the hype curve right now. Right? You guys know the hype curve, right? The next one is trough of disillusionment. I hope it doesn't fall into that, because lots, and I've seen in my own career 7 such disruptive things come. Some of them stuck around, some of them just went away. But this is truly disruptive. There's no doubt about it. Right? I hope you guys can hear me, right? Yeah. Now, if you look at every such skill that I talked about, there are 2 ways to think how you as a product manager can leverage this generative AI part of it. Right? When I say generative AI, I'm not just talking about the large language models of text, but also image, audio, video, all kinds of content. Right? Now, you put this into 2 categories. One, you as an individual product manager working towards improving your efficiencies and speed up your creative process. Today, that's where the most use is. The second part typically is generative AI in the enterprise, which means companies trying to leverage that to build products to compelling experiences. Now, that has a long way to go, and I have my reasons, and I'll come to that later, right? But every aspect, including market analysis, which basically involves customer insighting, validation, competitive analysis, right? Strategic planning includes product strategy, portfolio analysis, and these things, right? And the third one, product planning, which a lot of product managers in India are currently in, which is requirements management, requirements definition, user stories, prioritization, roadmaps, and design. This is a subset of the overall product management skills, right? Would you agree? The most of the PMs in India especially are in that product planning stage. Now, every step, every competency can be, 10x, 50x improved in terms of productivity and efficiency with Gen AI. I can give several, I'm sure panel has lots of examples to do that. Right? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Raghu, maybe I'll shift gears to understand. I know you're leading the product management and design at IIIT and has also been leading the data science and software work streams here. So if you have to pinpoint on the specific skill set or competency that you would require from the traditional, whatever we have seen, I think Professor Sai touched a bit, if you can throw some light with your experience.
Thank you, Haripriya. So I guess, so we are in the zillionth Gen AI panel, and I'm sure out there in Mars, there's one more probably going on in terms of Gen AI panels. That's how it's become, right? So every other street you turn to in an IT city, you will probably find a Gen AI panel. Fortunate or unfortunate, I'll leave it up to you guys, right? So I know he touched upon a lot, and I'm sure from a product management perspective, right? So broadly, if you look at a product, I would want to at least divide it from an engineering lifecycle perspective and a management lifecycle perspective. And a lot of talk goes on from a management lifecycle perspective, right? We also, as product managers, need to look at the engineering lifecycle perspective. And to me, there's a lot that will probably happen from an engineering lifecycle perspective, because unless you drill down to actually being able to identify what's the specific support, right, that's available. And when I say support, it's not just in your team, it's the ecosystem. What support does the ecosystem provide you? If you don't have it, your product is bound to fail. No matter how complex your algorithm is, or how exaggerant or fantastic your actual management life cycle is. It does not matter, right? Ultimately, you have to have the supporting ecosystem. And that requires a lot of tool support, right? So to me, a lot of skill set, at least from an engineering life cycle perspective, needs to go into building these tools and managing these tools, right? Don't look at it as a large product, right? Small products, whatever that might be, that's going to support. Because you have a life cycle where you're looking at a traditional engineering life cycle going from requirements all the way to maintenance, right? And of course, at some point, end of life. And everywhere at this point, you'll have to look at what's the skill set needed to develop these tools and manage these tools. That, to me, is more important. Whether it be, let's say, I'm building a tool set for math, right? What's the mathematical knowledge that I need to build this tool set and use Gen AI to generate maybe a step-by-step solution for a particular math problem, right? Whether it's a SciMath or a Wolfram Alpha type tool, for example. Or maybe you're developing a product, I need to create design prototypes, right? What's the specific tool set that's needed? Because it's not just plug and play. You're typically looking at tailoring a particular solution, because it's not as if you're going to use ChatGPT as it is. It's not as if you're going to use Llama 2 as it is, right? Your large brain, which are the large LLMs, have to be transferred into a small brain. That's the skill set that's needed. How do I transfer them and apply it in the context of your particular solution? Generics, yeah, well and good, that ChatGPT can provide, right? But as managers, how do we bring that value? The additional add-on values is that transfer of knowledge to your problem, your product, your organization.
Absolutely, and in the tea break, he also touched upon how engineering is one of the key streams, and it was good to know the statistics, 68% research still happening on computer. Thanks for that. I'll move into understanding the HR role. Mr. Ashish, your experience in HR spans across, corporates, NGOs, which is very interesting, and also academia. And you stress a lot upon work-life balance too, so it's interesting. Could you share insights on how HR practices and talent acquisition strategies have adapted in response to the changing technologies?
Sure, thank you so much. So I'm going to start actually, I would say I would like to, with the Gen AI, I would like to focus on 3 key areas. Okay, we're looking because as the HR leaders, we are bombarded day and night. Every day is a different day for HR leaders. You can ask anybody, and nobody knows where we are going to be for the next 15 minutes. So 3 main areas where you're looking is, first, it's improved efficiency. Okay, so point over here is, since there's a lot of data and we want quick analysis, and so we want generative AI to help HR leaders to take better informed decisions. Okay, and so with this context, I would like to share one particular incident which just happened on 5th September, 3 days back. I'm just linking that. It just struck me just a few seconds back, and I thought this is the best place. 5th September, I kind of reached home around 6 p.m. I was completely exhausted. Last 3 days were kind of roller coaster ride. And I was about to hit the sack. And just when I got a call from one of the senior academicians, I do not know why he called me, probably, yes, he knows me pretty well. He said, Ashish, I have decided that I want to commit suicide in the next 15 minutes. Of all the blues, I received this call. I was zapped. And I said, yes, this person definitely needs my help. And I said, just give me 20 seconds. I just had 20 seconds to take a decision. I had not done any physical fitness for the last 3 days. So I said, let me carry my power bank, let me carry my Bluetooth set. And I decided, and I connected with him, had a non-stop conversation for 4 hours non-stop. Understood his entire problems, what he or she was going through, gave a resolution, and after 4 hours, he was completely decided normal. And the challenge didn't end over here. I had 2 more employees, major escalations. They wanted my time. I said, Ashish, anyways, I'm walking, so let me just continue my walk. So the question which rang to my mind, today was, as we have so many PMs, project managers sitting in this room, can we do something that, what if I had a board review presentation next day? And if I didn't have time, because you don't know. So can there some tools be developed which can actually help, we call it early warning indicators, wherein a person is not well, mental wellness, so that the right help is provided to the right individual at the right time. We're talking about Industry 5.0, which talks about technology taking care of human beings, right? So is there some kind of tool? Secondly, as HR leaders, we want all the routine works, redundant transactional works to be taken over by GenAI so that we can actually focus on strategic areas. We can understand interacting with the employees, trying to understand their pain points, and trying to see that we can give our best. So this is one of the key things, and yes, so I would say a lot of expectations are there in terms of from GenAI from an HR perspective. We are looking how to make the life of HR leaders work at a very strategic level, removing all the transactional jobs out.
Thank you, Mr. Ashish. Mr. Trunath, I know Keka urges us to reimagine HR, right? So, we spoke, we always talk about Workday, so I was just trying to understand how is Keka bringing a change. So, in your experience with HR technology, what innovative tools and solutions could help HR professionals in assessing the right candidates?
So, at Keka, we have kept employee experience in the forefront. In fact, we go by for the love of employee experience. Let me take a simple journey of an employee where it starts, right from employee persona and from hiring manager persona that we touched, and the well-being of an employee. So in most of the cases, the tools, the technology where it can enable for a hiring manager when he gets to screen hundreds of resumes, be it 500, 600, because of the volume of resumes or the candidates inflow of the candidates that they are getting, they typically go with algorithmic sorting kind of thing where they add some blind rules key 4+ years of experience, or we should have so and so XYZ skill set. Rather in this era you can avoid or you can overcome those kind of bias, trying to understand the skills, the responsibilities that you need for a particular role, and mapping with the candidate resume. You can analyze with the tools that we have today. You can analyze and summarize the experiences that he come from, rather doing blind check with the skills and the keywords that are there in the resumes. Coming to the employee well-being, if we touch the next aspect of it, which is the primary essence or function of the HR, there are many micro interactions that you get signs of an employee. If they are applying for a leave, how was their day? If they are just applying for a leave, we can simply check the pulse of an employee, a kind of a thing where you just rate. They're still, I'm happy, I'm not happy, it's not a right day for me, it's not a great day. With these indications, over time, it will be able to tell you the pulse of an employee, how they are feeling in an organization, overall, what's the happiness indicator in the organization, which will greatly help the HR personals to gauge the mood in the organization or the teams. Or if you further drill down, you get to know which teams are having more sort of issues, or which teams are not feeling great at work, and how you can connect or align with your organization goal. So these are few factors where technology can enable and bridge the gap between the HR personals and the employees.
Very interesting. I think a lot of personalization, we try and do that as well to get into candidates. Before we switch gears to understanding about the continuous learning, let me pause to see if any questions from audience. We can take one question from audience. Please go ahead. Why don't you call out your name and then ask your question?
Thank you.
So one thing that has been coming out to the fore is sifting through resumes and helping hiring managers take those right calls. So whenever you're using GenAI, there can be two aspects to it. One, you are using it as a mere language model trying to understand the keywords. And the other is an outcome-based GenAI where you are actually understanding what led to successful outcomes. So when you're sifting through resumes, there could be numerous biases of hiring managers which might impact outcomes. So like for example, there could be very well a case where certain kind of people from a certain colleges or all right. So my question is, how will you manage these biases if you're using GenAI to sift through resumes?
Mr. Trinath, you want to give a try?
So with GenAI, particularly with GenAI, if hiring managers are going through the profile, see, one thing is for sure, GenAI is not going to replace the human factor of hiring manager and his decision-making skills. It's just going to be an assistant for him, or kind of AI assistant or a co-pilot, which is working with the hiring managers and giving indicators which profiles are a good match for the given role. And in fact, GenAI can in fact even hide the details like demographics of a candidate or gender of a candidate, where you can configure in the products, which will reduce the biasing factor to a great extent. It's more of matching the responsibilities that you need for a particular job and the experience that the candidate carry.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one context to it. In HR, we have something called blind hiring. Okay, so we do the blind hiring for a few roles alone. So of course, it's debatable, but we hide all the demographics, everything, so that we can just focus on the skill set alone and not anything else. So there we kind of help to reduce all the various biases.
I want to give a simple answer. I don't think anything changes because of GenAI. Okay? The problem of fairness and bias has existed since 1980s. Right? GenAI, just because the buzzword came in, nothing has changed. So you would still want fairness, you would still want bias to be eliminated. And what's the background, what's the data set that's needed, what's the balancing that's needed from your entire data sources, that still applies.
Thank you. We'll try and understand right now about a little on continuous learning. Professor Sai, you have played the role of product management, a coach, been a co-founder as well, I think, and been in academia. So you bring in all together, right? So in this evolving Gen AI landscape, how crucial is continuous learning, and what is your suggestion for individual learning as well?
Well, I think there's no debate about continuous learning, irrespective of generative AI,
yeah.
right? But here's a slight difference that I'm at least viewing it as. I believe that we are kind of at a tipping point of what was called as a knowledge era for a long time, which means the intent of accumulating knowledge through a learning continuous habit. It's a habit, right? Some people have developed that habit because I want to accumulate knowledge. I don't know when it'll come to use. Whenever it comes to use, and I have a phrase for this, it's called inventory of skills. Right? So a lot of people have that, and it served well for a while. I believe now, because a lot of things are very dynamic and complex, we are shifting to what I call as a single loop and double loop based learning. Let me explain that single loop and double loop. Single loop is very simple. An event has happened, and you have observed the result. Now you need to analyze that and figure out why it has happened and come up with a solution for it, which is what most of us do, right? But we are doing these things repeatedly, continuously, and at a rapid pace now. And what that means is there is no time for deep learning, pun intended, right? There is really no time for spending enough time to learn. So we have to learn things very efficiently, rapidly, and move on, right? Yeah. So that's now double loop learning is after you analyze and make a decision, it's important to take a pause and say, can this be applicable in any other situation? Now that is something that I believe we all have to ask, right? And this is where I strongly believe it's not just about Gen AI. Gen AI is going to accelerate this. Is interdisciplinary learning is going to become critical. Because things that have happened in your world are going to be applicable and can be made applicable in other, which has always been there. It's going to become more urgent. So if you are the person who are able to connect these dots together across disciplines, right? You may come from engineering. I come from engineering. I was part of the team that built Java, right? And that experience, don't leave it there. Now, are you able to connect with some other, chaotic scenario in business? And to me and so I'll summarize in two parts, right? There is something called extraction and there is something called transfer in learning. Extraction is what I just talked about. What will you draw from it? And so that not with the intent of solving that particular thing, but able to apply it in different contexts. Now, transfer is super critical because transfer includes linking, as we said, connected. And I strongly encourage and urge many of you to start teaching. Teaching is the best way of learning anything, right? In whatever way that you can. If you develop this habit of teaching, then the moment you read something, the moment you experiment something, and you go and talk about it, you go and tell 10 other people, that sticks in your mind.
Thank you. And I'll bring it to our organization, like State Street, wherein everybody wants to be in part of Gen AI, right? That's the latest one. So you're, like you said, the interdisciplinary skills, that's really going to move people, mobilize people internally. I think that's going to be a great support as well. Mr. Ashish, you have penned a very good article on power of employee experience. Why don't you talk about, as HR professional, what strategies and resources do you believe are efficient in continuous learning?
So I would actually just like to walk 2 steps back and say,
sure.
in terms of skills, because today's skill itself become like a commodity, just like a product has a product life cycle. We know that what skills we have today, high possibility it'll be redundant, outdated in the next 2 years. Unlike the olden times, like you just learn something and you're going to retire with that skills. So I think today one of the areas which as HR leaders where we are trying to focus is more on personalized learning, because it's not one shoe fits all. Everybody in the education space, we talk about bite-sized learning, micro-sized learning, right? So because employees want to learn at their own pace, right? They want to probably learn at night 12 or morning 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., whatever. They need to have the right tools, right infrastructure, right facilities, right opportunities for them. So as HR leaders, we try to ensure that we provide this best personalized learning, because this personalized learning will help us to get a lot of data, which particular concept a particular employee has understood or not understood. So with this, we are able to understand and provide the right kind of training inputs and training programs for employees at an org level. So this is what I want.
Yeah, perfect. And I think that will lead to what Mr. Trinad touched on, happiness index probably. So that's good. Professor Raghu, I'm sure you have addressed many Gen AI kind of discussions, but can you share some insights and strategies that would be more efficient for an Indian market? If you can touch a little about that.
Okay. Now that's an interesting question, especially because a lot of us obviously always talk about what's happening in US, what's happening in Europe, right? And just curious again, going back to what you started out with, how many of you actually have even looked at LLMs from India? Any LLM from India? Have you even heard about it?
Yoga GPT, Gita GPT, no? Okay.
It's now 9.5 months since OpenAI released its first version, right? And I'm surprised we haven't heard, right? That in itself should give us an answer why we need to work with an India-specific context, right? Especially with huge governmental support in terms of language. Projects like Bhashini, which do machine translation from multiple languages, right? So you start looking at it, you want to build data sets which are India specific, whatever be the case. Forget about LLMs. Start off by looking at data sets that are India specific. Data sets for Indian driving conditions. And look at it, we are talking about autonomous driving cars, ADAS level 1, and then I proudly come back and say, oh, mine is level 2. And then we really don't understand what is level 2 in an Indian context. Right? What does it really mean to have ADAS level 2 in an Indian context? No, it's really different from level 1 in US versus level 4 in US versus here, right? So I would probably say that we need to start looking at building data sets as the first step from an Indian context. That will give us a lot more problems that are India specific, not just language, education, right? How do you educate? We talk about personalization. All these models, all these training sets are from somewhere. Can I now use that on some random person who's there in Chhattisgarh? It has to be contextual, right? We talk about prompt engineering. You know, that's the latest. Designation, isn't it? Prompt engineer. I want to be a prompt engineer. Your prompt engineer, unfortunately, is based on US data. So start thinking about it, and this is a genuine request to all the managers out here who are building products, right? Please look at creating India-specific models.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think tying it back to what Professor Ramesh spoke in the morning as well. Indians, instead of Bay Area, Indians for Indian market, right? That's something that he touched upon. Very interesting. Thank you.
I don't know, let me ask you and the audience here. In March, in one of the big forums of MIT, Ashwini Kumar gave a hint when the interviewer asked him, so when is India going to have its ChatGPT moment? Did anybody watch that? Or maybe I'm the only obscure guy who's watching this stuff. So he actually asked this very specific question. So when is India going to have its ChatGPT moment? And you know what he said? Just wait for 2 more weeks and you will be surprised. Hold on, that happened in March. And I was equally excited as you. I'm still excited. I don't know what about. Right? I'm sure there is a lot of stuff going on. But I think, everybody, especially in public domain, open source projects, these are the ones that need to contribute to, essentially, just to summarize Raghu's thing, number one, when we talk about LLMs, we are talking about 4 things. Data, language, and context. 3 things. That's all. But we have to build these 3 things, and it's not an easy job. I know engineering head, a CTO of a company called Reverie Technologies, who's actually an alumni of IPL, but this guy runs an engineering team who's doing a real-time translation of Indian language websites. Real time, through mobile apps and everything. Right? So some interesting work, but to your point, I think the responsibility is in all of us. There's nothing else.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll do one last question to this panel. Trinath, maybe I'll start with you. What are the key insights you share regarding the role of bridging academia, bringing and building future product leaders? Where do you think we should, what we should do to be future ready, I would say?
So I'll start with open source contributions. That's something that is going to help students and particularly academia to understand what's happening in the space. There are many interesting projects, and if we talk about if we speak about we have Swechha, which does a lot of events around. A couple of you might have heard about it as well, where they have been doing sessions on different technologies and primarily focused on the open source technologies, where gathering industry experts, students, and then encouraging them for the contributions. The recent projects, like they've been working on one of the transport module to help understand the timings of metro or timings of public transport, where they're building an app particularly for different metro cities. So contributing for these open source projects is going to greatly help bridge the gap between the needs of the industry and the academia as well.
Perfect. Mr. Ashish, your thoughts on how do we, bridge the gap between, academia and the industry, if I may say?
See, one of the biggest aspect is, today we churn out a lot of students, IITs, IIMs, or various universities. But how well are they kind of having an industry exposure? Because gone are the days of bookish knowledge, right? And we have ChatGPT and various tools. So I think the best way to bridge the gap is to give them real-time projects, and also have a lot of academicians do work in the industry, so that they are able to go and translate and add value to the students, so that the students understand the concepts and also how to apply these concepts on a day-to-day basis. So once these two are kind of mixed, that will really help the students.
No, absolutely. I'll echo that. I'm also pursuing my executive MBA product leadership, and the product labs. That is one of the interesting things, wherein we learn experiential learning, a lot of learning. While in theory you can learn, and Professor Raghu, we just touched a little about that. So why don't you give your insights there?
Okay, I guess as an academic I should have a better answer, right?
Absolutely.
So I'll first of all start by saying I don't think we should look at ChatGPT as a competitor. Okay, see, unfortunately what happens is, as academics, we are always afraid of change, right? So when things come along, technology comes in, we tend to fight it rather than embrace it, right? And to us, at least from IIIT's perspective, I can say, I think we encourage people to use ChatGPT. You know, you want to write a programming assignment, it's not about finding the solution, okay? In fact, a lot of instructors I know, for example, if you create a programming assignment, they would start off with ChatGPT and create the programming assignment, and then tweak it because ChatGPT can't act on it anymore. Now it's about understanding the program and the nuances of the program rather than just trying to build a program, right? That's where you start kind of thinking about the mind and what sort of changes should somebody, you know, learn as part of programming, for example, right? Going back to the whole real life experience, for example. So we have been running, at least I personally have been running a course which is taught to the sophomore students, second year undergrad engineering students. It's called Software Systems Analysis and Design, right? And the course fundamentally requires a 3.5 month, 4 month project that they have to do. And these projects have real clients. And when I say real clients, these are, you know, projects that are actually elicited by industry people, including startups. They will propose a project, we scope it down in the context of what you can do in 4 months, and the student is expected to deliver, including deploy their particular piece of prototype as part of the project, right? Wow. And so this is built into their second year curriculum itself. So as a result, we don't think there is that much problem. They don't get scared of anything hands-on, right? So devil is in the details, you know, you basically ensure your hand in addition to your brain also works.
Absolutely. And Professor Sai, you keep encouraging to use ChatGPT. He would say, use whatever, but show me what prompt you used, right? So you may want to conclude on this topic.
Yeah, no, I kind of straddle both worlds, and which is unfortunate in certain ways, but I think let's take two parties here. One, we said the academic institutions.
Right.
The other one is all our companies, industry where we work in. On the first part, I think I'm seeing changes, and I believe it's going to happen a lot more. Is number one, weaving this generative AI usage into every assessment, every project, and basically say, go use it, right? And I'll give you a simple example. I teach product strategy in the executive MBA program, and for a couple of years, one of the basic assessment was take a company. Pick your favorite company and do a strategic analysis of that company, right? So the strategic analysis has several elements: internal, external, political, economical, business related, all kinds of things. If you have to really do it well, it would take you 3 weeks. And today, you can do a strategic analysis reasonably well with hallucinations. Now, if you don't know the word hallucinations, it's okay, you're spared, right? You can do that strategic analysis in 3 minutes. But you have to iterate and iterate to get to that right thing to ask, right question to ask to get that strategic analysis. But what I'm saying is, don't ask students to, or don't evaluate students on the output. Evaluate students on the critical thinking, right? Which means, how did you get this? And why did you consider not, and several institutes that I'm seeing are changing that part. So that's on the participants, students part. Students doesn't mean just college students, right? Anybody who's learning.
Yeah.
And on the other side, which is an industry, I believe institutes like IIIT are doing enormous amount of research.
Yeah.
And we as industry need to partner with to commercialize, to productize those research, right? If that is not happening, we will be for a long time, we have been solving customer problems of some other country. Of course, we've been doing that now for the last 7 or 8 years. We've been focusing on our own needs and our own problems, which is good. But there's a lot of incredible amount of research that is happening in institutes like this. And so to me, bringing that and formalizing that structure is the only way to do it.
Thank you. Very, very interesting discussion. We'll ask two questions from the panel.
Yeah, we can take 2 questions quickly, and short questions, please.
So we'll take the middle one.
Thank you. My question is more around application of AI in the real life products. So what are the risks, privacy issues, ethical implications and compliance, legal compliance, challenges that you have seen with real life, applying Gen AI in the real life products?
I think more towards data privacy. How do you manage that in this, Professor Sai, you want to take this?
So quickly, I think there are two aspects to it again. One is there is a lot of reluctance. And by the way, I said one of the perspectives I speak to lots of these product leaders who are leading product initiatives and how you're bringing that. Something came out very interesting. 39% of the companies, at least among 20 odd companies that I talked to, basically said they have no intent of doing anything with Gen AI in this year, which is fascinating. Whereas 37% of them said that we are actually starting to create some experiments. Now, why is this, while the whole world is talking about all of these things, the organizations are taking a very cautious approach, not because the technology is not mature or anything. It's because of simple reasons. Number one, lack of domain-specific models is number one thing.
Absolutely.
Right? We have generic LLMs, large foundational models that were built on public data, who knows what it is. But your business, for example, State Street,
yes,
is a financial services company. You have your own ontologies, you have your own context and data. So domain-specific models are being built. So that is going to take some time. Now there are different approaches different companies are taking to that. The second part is this access control, right, privacy, data security, right? You cannot just open up these public large language models to everyone in the company. How many companies have banned this inside your company network, right? This is because you can upload any kind of data, nobody knows. There is a clear violation of access controls there. So companies are trying to figure out how do we do this. Now there are a few companies who have isolated containers where they are doing these experiments. There are companies that are doing enterprise versions of this ChatGPT, which is horrible, by the way. It's very expensive and all
very
of that,
yeah, the
right?
cost, yeah.
So a lot of things. Now the other side of your question, which is from a customer experience standpoint, there is, as Professor Raghu said, there is going to be an inevitable and there is already inevitable bias. Bias is something that can only be done if your data on which you have trained the models is bias-free, which is incredibly hard, but you have to make those. You have to fine-tune those foundational models. Otherwise, it will impact the end users in any way. But in other cases, personalization is superb. Now, data privacy, I worked for a company whose CEO said 25 years ago, there is no privacy, get over it. I will stick by it.
All right, we'll take one last question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So my question is on the other side, like we know the advantages we have been speaking about, but if we take a look on the other side, like we know, like on the past election, in US elections, there was some bots which were on the Twitter, which were tweeting and all. So how do we see that in Indian elections as well, or we have the general elections coming
it's happening.
So
Professor Raghu, yeah.
Yeah, I like that question. See, I think if you want a managerial perspective, you do a SWOT analysis, right? But if you really start thinking about it, as recently as I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, there was a major report that came out about the problems with AI, right? And that applies to Gen AI as well, whether it is ethics, fairness, bias, whatever are these characteristic qualities that you typically associate with any system will probably exist with AI-based system, right? So how do you handle it? That's where the real question is, whether it is prompt injections or whether it is hallucinations or any of these new issues. Of course, the verbiage changes, right? But ultimately, what do you want? You want factuality, right? The new words keep popping up. Eventually, think about it. You want a system to be correct. True? It's not because of AI. Whatever be the system, you want the system to be correct. Now, can you reduce the probability of your output, wherein your output is giving facts or realistic enough that they are equivalent to facts? That's where I think research is probably going to go in, and a lot of this research is directly translated to whatever applications is being built, whether it is for politics, whether it is for Times of India or whatever, to give these election analysis, right? Ultimately, they are not building anything. It's people like us who are building things and they are using it, right? Unfortunate thing is they probably plug in data that suits them best. That's where the real problem is.
Well, I love this because I actually have been part of a political party for a long time, card-carrying member. I have deep interest in politics because that's the only way transformative change happens, and I truly believe that. And I also worked with lots of political consulting organizations to understand what they do. At least there's one company in Bangalore called Rajniti. This is a political consulting company. They are using AI beautifully. Now, how the output, what they use it for, I don't know. They won't tell you, right? We will only know after the results come out. But exactly the same tools that we are building, all of us are building, are being used for different applications, just one other application, right? If you have not watched the Cambridge Analytica documentary on Netflix, that will show you a lot of answers.
Okay. So just one last thought. If anybody is interested in building a Play Store for LLMs, please come and talk to me.
Interesting. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I resonate with what you said. Teaching is the most gratifying job ever. I'll take 30 seconds to tell you an incident. When I was all of 10 years old, 6th class, my mother has always been a teacher all her life. And she said teaching is the best profession, and I mocked at her. And for the last 13 years that I've been teaching, every time I enter the class, I kick myself and tell, Mommy, you were so right.
It's also a poor profession in this country.
Very badly paid, yes. Ashish, I have a quick question for you. As with all the AI and generative AI, etc., the youngsters who are coming into the organizations, who've got lots of fire in the belly, but they have things to do quickly. So is it going to help them not do their jobs correctly?
See, I'm just saying today it poses a lot of challenge actually. See, because everybody wants probably 2 minutes Maggi noodles. So my point is, today we have a very mixed gen set working in an organization. We have baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, millennials. So people want to do a smart work, not a hard work, right? They want to smart work, just finish it off and present it at the earliest. So definitely it is going to put a bit of challenge in terms of how we are going to assess their quality of work, because it's not just a tick mark. And second thing, just slightly digressing, I would also say one of the biggest key challenges is from a talent acquisition perspective. Today, for one job we advertise, trust me, there are more than 1,000 applications. Few months back, I was very happy with my team. Oh wow, what a well-constructed CV. Right choice of words. 4 months back, I saw 90% of CVs had the same language, ChatGPT. Same thing applies sick leaves today, right? I mean, your exit interviews, your resignation mails. It's all ChatGPT stuff coming. It's like so sick to even to read those mails because there's nothing personally involved in it. So I'm actually questioning myself as so many product managers. We should really try to see something how it really helps HR, talent acquisition team to get the right talent for the right job. That's extremely important because with the use of AI, most of the CVs have the same buzzwords, same catchwords.
We actually had this product many years ago before AI called Bullshit Detector.
All right.
I don't know if you know this, but I'll tell you.
I think it's
offline.
Yeah.
Thank you, Haripriya, for moderating the session. Thank you, Sai Satish, Raghu Reddy, Ashish, and Trinath. I request, please be seated. I request Raj to honor the guests, please. Let's have a round of applause. Give them the bags also. Thank you so much. Thank you, Haripriya, and the rest of the gentlemen out here. Group picture, please. I think a lot of bottles are seen. Why don't you come before that? Why don't you stand over there? Yeah. Thank you. That's my water. Let it be. We now have our expert talk. Our next item of the agenda is an expert talk, Building a Project Management Community by Chandrasekhar Samra. Chandrasekhar is a distinguished Senior Director of Product Management at ADP with over 17 years of expertise in product management. With previous roles in NCR, Adobe, and Avaya, he's a seasoned leader known for successfully launching new products, achieving product market fit, and driving imperative growth for Fortune 500 companies. Proficient in Agile and SAFE technologies, Chandra excels in product strategy, life cycle management, and leading cross-functional teams. His skills in competitive analysis and market research further enhance his value in the field, making a career characterized by innovation and product excellence. I invite Chandrasekhar onto the stage, please.
Yeah, I think this is okay. Good afternoon. I feel a little different being on the stage here because it was quite populated till recently. I'm feeling lonely, and we are getting close to lunchtime, so we'll try to wrap this up pretty quick. Okay. All right, while we get the slides up, a quick introduction about myself. I'm Chandra. I'm part of the ADP product management team. Been a product manager for quite some time, almost a decade. ADP is always designing for people. As you heard from Ranjan in the morning, we are 18 billion plus in revenue. Number one HCM company globally. We have clients across 140 different countries, 1 million plus clients. I don't think many of the companies can say that. Remember, our clients are pretty large. We have clients like Amazon, Sodexo, and so on, all the way from small business. Is it up yet? Nope. And recently, when it comes to Gen AI, we have been following a principle of make it easy, smart, and human. You would have heard that in the morning. So you will see a lot of reference to the content that I've got in here today is going to be in the backdrop of that this is potentially very specific to a B2B setup, a large company like ADP with a big product organization based out of India. All right, thank you. So we have talked about Gen AI since morning. So this is all being future ready. So we would like to have our product leaders, especially for a lot of large companies based out of India. We have seen a good number of product managers being recruited, hired, groomed internally in the recent past, in the last 5 to 10 years. So what does this really mean for all of us sitting in this hall here? So that's really the topic. I've got a few slides to take the conversation forward, but we'll try to keep it very interactive. I'll try to make some logical pauses in between a few slides, and feel free to ask questions. This is me sharing some of the learning from my side, but I'm sure collectively we can share a little bit more. Okay?
So with that, we'll get started. And hopefully this will work. Yes. So that's the agenda. We'll start with a quick recap of what we have been hearing since morning. What does Gen AI really mean for product managers and product leaders? So Gen AI really brings in, I think we have heard since morning that a lot of new evolving use cases, right? And interestingly, I think we as product managers, we have got enough use cases in our backlog, right? As if we didn't have enough. We have use cases coming all the way from senior executives, from customers, from everywhere. So Gen AI is just adding to it, right? So, however, this creates an opportunity in terms of use cases. Like one of the examples which was talked in the morning was the concept of creating job descriptions. We have been thinking about this quite a lot in the past. However, with the advent of Gen AI, this has gotten a little closer. Of course, we need to fine-tune it, we need to improve it, but that certainly has helped. Second, in terms of changing market landscape, in the last like 9 months or so, we have heard of many startups which have come in, and every large company is trying to play a role in Gen AI, right? So that certainly plays, has a dynamics in terms of what we do as a product manager day in, day out. We have seen a lot of companies talk about Copilot in their respective space. Today in the panel discussion also we heard that. Third, embracing a lot of regulatory compliances. I think in the morning we heard about scenarios or use cases around candidate relevancy, where I'm trying to stack rank candidates based on the resume versus the fitment with the job description and so on. However, we have got a few states in the US who are basically saying that you actually need to give that option to the candidate whether they want to opt out from their resume being screened by AI. So that's a new regulation which is coming in. And many states are actually trying to get that in front of their population. So as product managers, we had to react quickly to those regulations. So that certainly is one of those things. Being ethical. We as ADP, as an example, we have data for 1 million plus clients, and that data is a goldmine of information. However, we want to be very careful in terms of how do we use that data, right? So being ethical in terms of how we use the data becomes critical. Finally, for a large company like ADP, and I think most of the, I've seen folks from ServiceNow, Pega, and so on, so these are fairly large companies. And for many of these large companies, we typically have a large suite of products, a large portfolio. And when Gen AI comes in, it is not just, I'm not trying to solve one specific use cases, we have to solve a use case across these products. And managing that scale of innovation for a large company, potentially a company which has evolved over years, is not that easy, right? So that's another additional challenge. So how do we manage these challenges as we go forward? I think we try to answer that. Is it me or something? Okay. Thank you. How do we manage this? So the first thing is, we in ADP, we have been investing in continuous learning. And this continuous learning is very specific to product management 101. I think we heard enough in the morning that whatever be the case, Gen AI or something else, knowing the customer, the product management 101 goes nowhere. So we need to keep learning and making sure that as we hire more product managers, as we get more product managers into our organization internally, we want to make sure we are giving them enough tools and frameworks from a product management fundamental perspective. And that is what we have been doing in ADP in the recent past. Now, it's equally important that these trainings and these boot camps are practitioner-led, because we do want to make sure that anything that is shared with the product managers, new product managers, are based on the experience of the practitioners. So that's been one of the focus, and I think that would apply to any other company. Solving real-life problems goes without saying. I think we had multiple boot camps where we talked about specific specific use cases in the area of talent acquisition, talent management, where we were trying to throw those problems at the new product managers and solve them using these frameworks that they may have learned in the classroom. We partnered with a good number of B schools as well to bring in some fresh new ideas, right? And I think the last point is very important. We heard that during the conversation. We as product managers, especially, I think most of the product management organization in India has been built with the advent of agile, safe, whatever you call it, right? Starting with the product owners. And we are pretty good in terms of execution and the solution space. But what's equally important for us to innovate is we become comfortable with the problem space. And that's been the focus for us. Okay? Customer at the center, nothing new. I think we have talked about it enough, right? Now, how do we do this? Being so many miles away from the customers, for probably most of us in this room, because our customers are sitting either in the US or in most cases in the developed economies in Europe and so on, right? So how do we solve this? Of course, we try our best in terms of meeting the customers in person or over on the phone call, WebEx calls, and so on. But for ADP, over the course of last 20 years of existence in India, we have got a big footprint of service, implementation, support associates. And we spend a good amount of time as product managers sitting with them, taking calls, looking at their service request, and trying to draw insights out of those on what could be the pain points for the customers. So does it replace the direct conversation? No, it certainly aids to that conversation. The other area there we have been investing quite a lot is using tools around user behavior analytics, tools around product analytics to aid in our decision-making process. So most of the times, I think in the early days of product management, once you ship the feature, the job is done, you pretty much move on to the next feature or next capability. But there is a stronger emphasis on figuring out what's the outcome that you have been driving with the feature that you have released, and how does it feed back into the discovery cycle. So those are some of the tools that we can use as we go forward in terms of being closer to the customers. Some of the other things that you could potentially do is being part of the sales process. Let's say you have got a new product being launched, and sales team typically looks for support from product folks. So I think those could be some of those areas that you could potentially go and help. And in the process, you end up learning a lot more about what are the pain points and what's really working well for the customer with the product offering that you have. The third element that we have been focusing on is product community. And this is where we have been investing quite a lot in ADP in the recent last 6 odd months. So ADP grew from 50 odd product managers. ADP India grew from 50 odd product managers 3 years ago to 120 product managers today. So that's a huge growth from a product management footprint perspective. But it also comes with a challenge that many of these product managers either might have come externally to the organization, they might have come through B schools, they might have come internally. So there is some aspect which needs, some or the other aspect which needs to be bridged for us to set them to success. And which is where we are leveraging this community to help in terms of getting our product managers as far as possible on the same plane. So what does this community really do? So we use these, we call this community as Product Guild, and in Product Guild we share learnings across different business units, across product managers, be it in the small business unit, mid-market or up-market. And we share insights and we share learnings and frameworks and so on. So we are seeing good amount of traction there, some leading indicators that this is working well. I am pretty sure this could be some of those things that other companies could try as well, especially the companies who have been growing from a product management footprint perspective. I think Industry Connect, when we heard about Product Leaders Forum happening in Hyderabad, after such a long time we have not seen any such event happening in Hyderabad. And when we heard about it, we certainly wanted to tap into this opportunity, and which is why you see a lot of folks from ADP out here in the audience. We wanted to make sure that we were networking with our local community in Hyderabad and the product management community at large. Now, the fourth one, which I want to talk about, is the culture of innovation. Now, when you put the product management 101, the customer at the center, and community of sharing of knowledge and insights all together, then it creates a perfect platform for you to innovate. And we at ADP, we have been investing a lot on innovation. There are wider corporate level innovation initiatives, as well as initiatives within ADP India, where we are encouraging our product managers to leverage the learnings across the three pillars that I talked before to innovate. I think we have got some good traction going from ADP India, where some of the newer products are built, conceptualized, and built out of India. So something for other companies to kind of think about in terms of innovation. So that's really what I had at a summary level. When you put all these four pillars together, this is where I think we can empower and encourage our product leaders to be future ready in terms of be it Gen AI or something else, right? So I'll take a pause and see if there are any questions and anything that you guys like to share from your organization before we go for lunch. Yep.
In the community part, we have a big thing on mindset part. Mindset is another important aspect wherein everyone has to practice upon it. So how are you tackling it, and what are the tips or any suggestions on how do we have to follow with it? Because that's a interesting conversation to have it, and keeps happening about. I just want to understand your thought process.
Sure. I think I don't know if there is a formula to build the product mindset, but what I would say is, as part of the product community and keeping the customer at the center, I think we have made some strides there. Example, we focus a lot on design thinking and user research. In terms of trying, before we get into building something, we spend a good amount of time doing market analysis and user research. And as part of these community, when we share some of these insights or case studies that we may have done for some of our products, that encourages the rest of the product managers to start thinking in those directions. So I think it comes as a result of a lot of discussions and a lot of deliberation on some of these topics. I would say that's primarily what we have been doing.
So I have a question about how do you apply Gen AI, which basically helps a reduction in product leaders kind of a work. Do you have any use cases which you practice?
Yeah. So I think we have heard of some use cases. I've heard Gen AI being used, whether, I don't know if, at least I have not used, or anybody from our organization has not used, but I've heard Gen AI getting used quite a lot in terms of competitive analysis. I've heard Gen AI getting used in terms of things like release notes and communication post-release and go-to-market and stuff like that.
Do you mean like in the development cycles, like for example, when you're developing a product?
In the development cycle, I thought you were talking purely from product. In the development cycle, I think we are exploring some ideas about how do we increase the productivity of our engineers. So in ADP, we have a platform, HCM platform, using which we can build apps. We are exploring ideas on can we, based on prompts, can we start building applications? And to the extent that we are even thinking that based on the what's been articulated as a requirement, can that start getting converted in some sort of a user experience options, and based on the user experience that you want to go with, can you start using the platform to build those apps? Because these are low-code platforms, so potentially you could do it. It's not really the code.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Piyush. You just said that building the product mindset is like really difficult. One of the thing is on the topic building product community, right? We know that product management is not still a very widely popular academic course, or like you can't have a degree specifically in product management if you are undergraduate. Are you building a path for, say, people from engineering or other backgrounds within ADP to transfer into role, and how do you support that that kind of environment where we can cultivate people to basically transition into this role while basically building the necessary skill set to basically excel at that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So one of the things that we want to index quite heavily on in ADP as an example is the domain knowledge. Like, we have been a big payroll player for a long, long time. So there is a good amount of domain knowledge which resides within the company. So which is where it becomes important for us to encourage our internal engineers as well as service associates to move into product management should they want to. So we do create learning paths for them. Now, it's not as simple as creating a learning path and kind of leaving it to them, but we have a structured program which involves actually HR, which involves the leadership, because there needs to be equal buy-in from all the players to make it happen. So it's a combination of learning paths, mentorship program, and we try to create a roadmap for that person that maybe with hitting certain milestones, maybe in certain number of months, you would transition into product management.
We can take one last question.
Yeah. So in large organizations, right, one-time training is not sufficient,
Yep.
or even one-time learning is not sufficient.
Yep.
How can Gen AI help in, improving the knowledge retention rates? To the same thing, one more question I have. As an employee, I might be, super knowledgeable, but I might be super inconfident. Okay.
Very good question.
I could be, I could be, very fast, but very inaccurate. There are multiple combinations. How can Gen AI solve this problem and improve the efficiency overall of a company?
Oh, great question. I don't know if I have a answer to that question, but I think I'll try to answer the second part of your question to the best of my ability. So, how can we get the confidence? I think the question was, I may have the knowledge, but I don't have the confidence, right? So, as part of this community exercise that we are doing, there is a lot of emphasis on storytelling. Like, many of our product managers could have been coming internally from within the organization. So they may not be very comfortable speaking in large forums, speaking in front of the client, presenting to the executives, and so on. So what we try to do is we create this environment for them to fail safely. So this community is like, nobody's really judging you. You come in and talk about your product ideas, what you did for some of the launches that you may have done, what you did for some of the prioritization exercise you may have done, what you did for your discovery exercise, right? And we kind of encourage that way. Does that help? I know there's no Gen AI here, so. Yeah.
Thank you, Chandrasekhar.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
request Sandeep to come and honor the guest.
It's okay.
Thank you, Chandrasekhar. We break for lunch. We meet at 2 o'clock back.